Hi, I'm Nat.
And I'm Guy. And the second half of the show, we'll get into geopolitics. But first, we're going to get into all the creator nonsense going on with Candace Owens, Nick Fuentes, JD Vance, Roseanne Barr. I mean, you name it, we got it today. Sean Ryan as well. I mean, there has
Kim
been
Iverson.
Kim Iverson.
Ali Beth Stuckey.
Tim Pool. They're all making the headlines.
Yep.
Okay.
There's like a big rule in like either journalism or I guess, well, now the commentary space. You should never become the story. That's the whole thing that's the one rule. You never become the story. And now they're all being the story. So.
Well, I think we're going to start out with the Candace Owens stuff because that's very prevalent. Yeah. So we'll start with that. And then it kind of runs into the JD Vance, which was on the cover. So.
Yes.
Cool.
Well, apparently today, Candace Owens didn't have a show. We don't know why, but we have an idea because last night her show was kind of a mess, a big mess. And I think it revealed a lot more than...
Wait one second. Before we do get into it, if you do have any comments, please leave them. It does help the show go a lot smoother. We read all the comments that come in, even if they're bots. Mm-hmm. I know we already have one bot in the chat, I believe.
Yes. Hello to our favorite bot chat, Julia Collins. Thank you always for your comments.
And it seems every time we talk Candace Owens, Nick Fuentes, or Tucker, we get swarmed by bots. But that being said, I guess it helps with the watch hours for now. We're still trying to get monetized.
Yes.
If you're not subscribed, please do so.
Yeah.
And
it really does help. And it's free. So Julia Collins, I guess I'll read the bots.
Yeah, go ahead.
Chat. Says, what kind of person watches the January 6th riot live on TV and then refuses to support the same presidential candidate as the rioters 4 years later? That was by far our nation's proudest moment. It's always the same comment, the exact same comment, and then eventually it posts a different one.
And most of the bots have numbers behind their names, I've noticed. Mm-hmm. That being said, once in a while, a human puts numbers in the name. So if you are a human, put an H in the chat. We would like to know who's authentically human here.
Yes.
We do like authentic views, but you can't help these bots coming, especially lately.
So any humans, please do put an H in the chat if you want, just to let us know how many humans are here. Follow the Bradley's fun. Hello, long time no.
Oh, good to see you.
See, we've also seen each other. Says, good evening, Nat and The Guy. Hello, good evening.
We've been going on at the same time as his show, so we haven't been able to be on his show.
That's the thing. Follow the Bradley's Fun also says, my thoughts about Candace are that if you read the comments she gets, those people have a cult-like mentality. And she, in my opinion as well, she has a cult-like way of presenting and presenting herself and the information. And her way of, in my opinion, manipulating the versions of the story and the things she decides to talk about and how she frames it as well. Very Jonestown-like.
Well, a lot of creators within this space are having cult-like followings because Nick Fuentes is the same way.
But it's different in my opinion.
Okay, well, we do disagree somewhat on Candace, although my opinion is, I think, different than most people in the spaces. I think everybody from Tim Pool, Nick Fuentes, Candace is working for an intelligence agency. What we're seeing is actually a battle of intelligence agencies through social media commentary. That being said, I've kind of went over in the past why I think each individual one and their history, linking them to which intelligence agency. Me personally, I think Candace Owens is linked to British intelligence, and I think they're trying to undermine the Trump administration and take over the America First movement. So.
And for me, I mean, I do agree with the higher level influencer commentary space. Of course, is going to be interests, be it with investors or certain people that want certain messages out there, and they can be used. I don't know if I'd go as far as to say, yes, they're all feds, intelligence agencies, they're all fighting each other through all these content creators. That to me is still a bit far-fetched until there's more concrete proof or evidence. But again, I will say I do think there's interests in the middle of all of this infighting that normal, regular people maybe aren't as aware of. You're just getting caught up in the drama and the wanting to know what happened and who's fighting with who.
We also have to realize Trump did completely take over the GOP and kind of reinvent it, but it was from the top down. There's still a lot of rhino Republicans in name only that are kind of laying in wait for the end of Trump's term. And there's a lot of different factions waiting to take over either the America First movement or try to take over the conservative movement in general, especially with Trump being gone after the end of this term. The midterms are coming up as well. So if they can put a monkey wrench in the Republicans winning the midterms, they can completely freeze Trump out for the second half of the term and almost guarantee themselves a victory in 2028. Okay, let's get.
Hold on.
Okay.
There's more comments from Follow the Bradley's Fun. Thank you. Put an H in the chat. So thank you. We know you're human. We've seen you. And also says scheduling is hard. Yeah, especially because we changed our schedule so I could do my Spanish show not super, super late, even though I still go on until about 1 a.m.
Oh, yeah.
But it would have been later if we kept up with
And I am going to say something right now because we're going to get into it later in the show, but I was definitely on that the 30-06 with a Full Metal Jacket round wouldn't do what they did. So I was more on Candace Owens' side, but I've come around after continuously looking at the evidence. I do look at both sides of the evidence. So I'll watch 2 hours of Ian Carroll, and then I'll watch the other side with Fuentes or whoever's putting out the most relevant data. Recently, it was a French guy kind of going into the ballistics and things like that. And that being said, I do have a completely different theory.
And Phoenix Ammunition and Paramount Tactical, they did a big live stream yesterday about talking about the bullet and everything.
Yeah, but I don't.
Did they dedicate their lives to doing that? Yes.
Yeah, but I don't necessarily agree with that side and what they're putting out either. I kind of have something in the middle that I think actually describes what could have plausibly happened and how it could have come from a 30-06, and that is a hollow point round. This would explain a lot of it, but we'll kind of get into that in a bit when we get into some other articles.
Okay, because I have a different opinion about, not that specifically, but about the conversation that has been happening around what the doctor said and what TPUSA said, and then what Candace interpreted, and then what all the other crazies, in my opinion, interpreted as well. So, but we'll get into that in a bit.
But I would like to see some people put out some other evidence, like possibly a hollow tip bullet round, and see what Ian Carroll's response would be to that, because that actually answers all the questions coming from a 30-06 and how it could
are we getting
come
into it
from
now?
that.
Because I have
Okay,
responses.
no, we'll get into the regular list.
Hold on. Follow the Bradley's Fun says, I honestly don't know what happened to her, to Candace. She used to be different. I think it's just a lot of people are now realizing some of her tactics that she's employed elsewhere with other stories she's covered, and the lack of evidence before wasn't as dramatically noticeable, or like the lies, in my opinion, wasn't as dramatically noticeable because she was doing stories mostly that concerned the left and people that conservatives were against. And now that it's turning on this side, it's more like, well, we all kind of know this almost by heart, and we can see it's easier to discern for more people what she's actually doing and how she's also furthering the infighting amongst the conservative creators.
Me and you disagree on Candace. I've come to the conclusion over time that she is working for MI6 or UK intelligence.
I just don't think.
Hold on, I've kind of gone into that with the last few episodes, but I'll just recap it really quick. Her husband is from the UK. The family he comes from also has direct connections to intelligence agencies within the UK. The amount of money they have, I honestly think they were trying to capture TPUSA, and he was hoping he would be the replacement for Charlie Kirk. There's a lot more evidence going into that. I think Nick Fuentes is potentially going to do a deep dive on that. He's the one that has presented a lot of evidence on Candace Owens' husband, and it's very interesting. I mean, there is a lot of question marks, not so much about Candace, but her husband, that would actually explain Candace Owens' actions and why she's like a rabid dog with a bone here.
That, or we can go with the in love theory that Tim Pool has, where she's just like a scorned woman who wanted to end up with Charlie, but she didn't. And as a woman, and if there's any women out there watching or listening to this, I'm sure you've had a friend or have been the friend that gets a little bit obsessive over a person that rejects you, a guy that rejects you, and then you kind of spiral and deep dive. And I just think Candace doesn't have many friends to pull her out and be like, hey, it's over. You have a husband. Where's the husband, by the way? Why, be him MI6 or not, why isn't he stopping her from making and breaking every relationship she has within the conservative space, but also making a fool of herself?
Well,
She should go make him a sandwich and follow her own advice.
Well, I will say this, and I'll say it again. I know I said it on yesterday's show, but just kind of demonizing Candace could actually backfire in a big way. If you have my theory that she is with British intelligence and she's being funneled information by them, and then she has a big reveal, everybody doesn't need to necessarily step onto her side. It's going to explain where she's actually getting this intelligence and what the actual motivations are. But if you're just kind of demonizing demonizing her and she comes out with a big reveal, like she actually reveals something, a lot of people are going to apologize to her, and then she's going to kind of take control of the America First movement. So realizing British intelligence could be potentially funneling her a lot of this information.
But there is no information to funnel. It's all disprovable. You can disprove almost every single thing she has said. Literally, people have done that. Kaizen, he did a great kind of, let's think critically about things. Let's discern things a bit further. Let's look at the different possibilities, because Candace presents one thing and then kind of sticks with it, but presents no evidence or no counterpoints to actually strengthen what she's claiming happened.
Okay, well,
and again, if it was MI6, British intelligence, they're doing a terrible job at it.
Well, we'll agree to disagree on whether she's presented things or not. But that being said, even if, let's just pretend for a second, she hasn't presented any really hard evidence, but then she actually presents something that's unrefutable, a lot of people are going to have to apologize, and then she kind of takes over the movement.
But there's not been one thing.
But if you realize right from the beginning that this isn't an organic journey she's going on with her audience who's giving her tips from all around the nation, it's actually British intelligence.
But again, if it is British intelligence, they're doing a terrible job at it. It's not, there's been no real evidence. And yes, I have watched most of the episodes, if not all of them, since Charlie passed now. I've been watching the last ones, but I kind of went back and started watching them in almost 2 times speed just so I could get through most of them. But because of the comments saying, oh, you've never watched an episode, you never watched a good, now I have. And I can still say, even with more confidence, that she has not presented a single thing that is even feasible or remotely would be interesting to the case or would be beneficial to bring into the actual case.
Okay, and I keep saying I like the fact that
if it is British intelligence, they're, again, not doing a good job.
And I keep saying you need to give her space to ask the questions. I like the fact that they are opening up the free speech space, even though a lot of people don't like what's going on right now. They think Erica Kirk's a widow, TPUSA is untouchable. I don't view it in that sense, and I like the fact that not only Candace but a lot of people are asking questions, but that stuff has to be proven at a certain point, and if it's not, she's going to lose a lot of credibility.
Okay.
Oh, and wait, I will say this weekend coming up is going to be a huge weekend. This is why I think Candace didn't do a show today. We were kind of waiting for it because we usually go on right after her. That being said, she didn't go on, and yesterday she didn't have anything. She was just getting caught up in the gossip, trying to throw dirt on everybody. And that's with the big Barry Weiss interview coming up with Erica Kirk itself. And then on Monday, TPUSA has the big event where they answer questions. It's expected after that TPUSA, Nick Fuentes is going to do a full assault on Candace Owens, revealing her whole background. He's already stated he's going to do an expose.
He said he might.
If TPUSA doesn't ask the right questions. So I think it's going to be 1, 2, 3 punches in a row on Candace Owens. And the question is, how many people are going to be standing by her after that? I do know Ian Carroll and a lot of the other people that are kind of in Candace Owens' sphere are going on tonight. Ian Carroll is currently on live trying to recap all the evidence he thinks he has. A lot of the military or ex-military social media sphere that's on Candace's side say they're going on later tonight to represent a lot of the evidence. I think they're trying to prepare for what's going to happen this weekend and on Monday. So I'm going to be very interested to see not only what Candace says on Monday, but all next week. I think this thing is either going to blow up in her face or she's going to have to really present something.
And again, as I continue to say, Candace asks everybody to agree with her fully, or you're not on her side, you're against her. And while and the whole point of this channel was the whole free speech and advocating for free speech, both in English and in Spanish, she can say whatever she wants. But I think she's gone and she's dug her grave a little bit too far in by now with especially yesterday not being able to present anything. But I also agree with a lot of other people that are coming out and saying there's a lot more important things happening. Venezuela, what's happening with the U.S. economy, etc. And we do cover that again, but I do think it is distracting from a period of time, basically since Charlie was assassinated, where people should have been focusing on talking more and more about the midterms and about what could happen in each different state, because we have seen some results coming in from other states where Democrats are still winning. And if they win, then again, where does that lead? Where does the U.S. go if Trump doesn't get, or like Trump's continuation doesn't get elected in 2028?
Yeah, like this whole situation is.
And who gets that power? It's also an important question.
Yeah, and that's what we're going to kind of go into today, especially when we get down to the JD Vance stories. He seems to be aligning himself and realigning himself with very specific factions. So it's very interesting what's going on there. But I will say this whole thing, not only with Candace, but Nick Fuentes, Tim Pool, and a lot of other creators that I've been digging into, they have a lot of uncanny relationships with different intelligence agencies from around the world. And it really makes
Alleged.
Well, I've connected the dots.
I know, but it's alleged. There's no.
What I'm saying is I look at all this through a much different lens now. I think it's a battle of intelligence agencies at this point. I've said that, so why don't we actually get into the stories?
I gotta continue reading the comments. Hold on. Follow the Bradley's fan says, I just shared this live on my channel. Thank you so much. Thank you for the support as well. And for
you take my breath away.
For always trying to have us on as well. We promise maybe we can like move one of our shows and go on as well at some point.
Yeah. And
although with the holidays now, I know most people aren't going to be on. We did do next few days.
We did do a video on what was the name of that movie again? The Coal Miner?
Queen of Coal.
Yeah,
with Pedro Pascal's sister, who used to be a brother.
It was very interesting. I was just doing Queen of Coal to kind of make fun of this Netflix movie, but then you found out it's Pedro Pascal's trans sister in the movie.
I've been digging into Pedro Pascal for a while now, so if you want to watch the video, it's also in the channel because they have a very interesting family backstory going all the way back to Pinochet and Chile and the coup d'etat and everything that happened there. But they're also like pretty much radical Marxist leftists, his parents and now him. His mother has passed away, but there's interesting things about Pedro Pascal. And now that people haven't fully connected Lux Pascal, which is a sister, to Pedro and then to their family backstory, I think that needs to start getting out more and more.
Well, I also think Netflix, this isn't a one-off with Netflix. They can continuously do this over and over again, especially with children's content. And I really hope this Netflix Warner Brothers deal does fall apart. There's some big cracks there. At first, I kind of wanted Netflix to get the deal so there would be two major media organizations rather than just Paramount Plus, which is becoming a juggernaut. That being said, I kind of want to see this Warner Brothers deal go over to Paramount at this point, especially with the direction Paramount is taking their content, which is in a much more mainstream or conservative direction.
However, I'm not a fan of the Ellisons because they have weird plans for society and then what they'd like to see happen with digital ID and surveillance.
Yeah, I agree.
And hold on. Follow the Bradley's Fun says, I'm going to share this on my ex as well. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Honestly, thank you so much. We'll return the favor, but we have way less ex followers probably. Follow the Bradley's Fun says, hello chat, who else is here? If anybody else is here from Follow the Bradley's Fun, please let us know and we'll say hello. Again, we read all the comments that we get. We can't get super chats because we're not monetized yet on this channel. Follow the Bradley's Fun says, Candace is distracting from far more important news. That's what I'm saying.
Well, and I'll tell you what.
And it's not just Candace now, because it's all the other ones kind of glomming onto it.
I'm usually the one that gathers all the stories for the episodes, and the amount of news from each region, I usually divide it up into Europe, Asia, Africa, South America, and North America. And man, we've had to skip on probably an hour and a half of news because Candace gets the views, so we talk about it for an hour. I mean to talk for the second hour of actual news, and an hour is just not enough time. It's almost a 3-hour show of all the geopolitics that's currently going on in the world.
Which is far more important, and we agree. But again, trying to grow, you do have to kind of please the algorithm as well. Follow the Bradley's Fun also says, we'll all be moving to Mexico, make room. So if you don't know, we live in Mexico City. I am from Mexico. I'm Mexican. We lived in Canada for 13 years. Decided to not let our continue taking the insanity from the Canadian government, and I moved back home.
Well, yeah, and I used to live in I was born in Canada, but lived in the United States and then moved back to Canada. And then we fled to Mexico because the Canadian government just went absolutely bonkers. That being said, I mean, if a JD Vance or a real conservative doesn't get in there after Trump, I think a lot of Americans are going to be moving to Mexico too, because I think the Democrats are really going to try to make up for lost time. You're going to see massive censorship supported by the European industrial complex and Canada as well as Australia. idea. I mean, they're really buckling down on free speech. Trump is the only one holding the water at bay as far as the infringement of speech. The United States is really that beacon of light that's really, if they get extinguished, free speech on a global basis is going to almost be erased.
Yeah, it is the one thing kind of holding the concept of free speech and the specific viewpoint of liberty up right now. And then there are other countries, but that kind of led after, like I'm thinking Argentina, although I don't agree 100% with Malay, Chile maybe now, here in Latin America. In Europe, we do have Vox in Spain that also was kind of revitalized a little bit, in Italy with Giorgia Meloni. So we have seen this, but it kind of all came as an aftershock, or it was not an aftershock, but it was impulsado. It was brought forth by what was happening in the U.S. when Trump first came in and MAGA started kind of building itself.
Yeah.
And now it's one of the few ones left that could, that still has the power to inspire other countries. That's what I was trying to say. Hold on. Follow the Bradley's fan says, Candace not weighing in on Cracker Barrel is a travesty. And even with her show, she's only focused on this. She used to do and touch other subjects and talk about other things, but now it's all also, it's not even about Charlie Kirk, which is, I think, the most important thing to talk about. What his vision was, especially now that the midterms are coming, what he espoused, what good ideas he had, what bad ideas he had too, maybe. But everything with the Candace Owens show and the Candace Owens drama is Candace, Candace, Candace. It's all about Candace. And even when she speaks, she just mostly relates everything to herself.
Well, I was on Candace's actual side in the beginning, and over time, it's not that necessarily I've been against her, but a lot of these theories, because her main theory that holds the entire thing is the bullet and the gun. And if it was a hollow tip round, that theory starts to fall apart, and a lot of the other evidence starts to fall apart behind that. And when you're looking at freedom of speech, a lot of countries are saying, oh, we can't have freedom of speech because then you can't get to the truth. This thing with Candace might be a good example of why freedom of speech is the best thing, because over time, people are actually counteracting her ideas, not just with science, math, and a lot of other things.
Physics.
But yeah, they're kind of bringing me around to say, well, is it possible? How is it possible? And I looked into it. I'm saying, well, yeah, it is possible, number one, with a hollow tip, but there are other possibilities for a lot of this thing. And she's presenting this evidence like it's like you can't question it. Mm-hmm. And the thing is, a lot of what she's presenting isn't fact. That being said, I still want her to ask questions and I want to play it out to the end. We don't need a silencer with getting rid of free speech. Let them say what they want, and then other people can counteract that, and then people can make their own decisions. This could be a real opportunity to show the rest of the world how free speech actually works.
But again, I do think most people have to kind of be reminded of that discernment and that critical thinking, and to go research and look up things and come up with maybe your own theories as well. Because the best way to strengthen your point in any debate or in any thing in life is to find the opposite and see if your point or what you think actually stands up to that. And I think a lot of people are just saying and trying to defend Candace, be it bots or be it wine moms or be it actual human beings. They just go on and defend and say, no, it's the absolute truth that she's giving. And I think a lot of those people might stay stuck in that hamster wheel.
I don't think that's what happened. I think she gave she refuted the evidence that a Full Metal Jacket round couldn't do that to a neck, what they're saying. And I tended to agree with that, but it's not necessarily that type of round. And a lot of evidence hasn't even been released. We haven't seen the autopsy record on what actually happened to the spine, what vertebrae was hit first.
Exactly.
So like a lot of this is going on in assumption or conjecture, people that say they've seen the report or they've heard what's in the report. With Tyler Robinson being in court just today, it made me really think, well, we haven't seen a lot of this evidence. And this trial is going to be massive. I think we're going to cover quite a bit of it when it does go on.
If it does. But now the judge, and we'll get into Tyler Robinson's first court appearance, formal court appearance in a bit. But the judge is still weighing if they want cameras or not. Because, it's already, the case is already mostly completely fragmented, and the jury pool is going to be really hard to find anybody that hasn't heard anything about it, especially in Utah. Actually,
he said he was going to allow cameras, but they already started allowing cameras, and some of the rules were broken. So now they're reconsidering if they were going to allow those cameras. What do I mean by the rules were broken? They have Tyler and Robinson in handcuffs and shackles, and they weren't supposed to show that on camera, him being in handcuffs and shackles, especially before jury selection, because it could taint the jury, although a lot of things are going to taint the jury at this point. And then also
find someone that lives in the mountains in Utah.
And also his notes were visible, or his lawyer's notes were visible, which also broke the rules of what they were supposed to be allowed to show in court. So now they're reconsidering whether they're even going to allow these cameras in court. I think they definitely need to, especially with the controversy around this. Hopefully the evidence ends up showing a reasonable theory that everybody kind of accepts, and this puts a lot of doubters to bed.
To bed? To rest. Oh, no. There.
To rest, yeah.
To rest. Hold on. Where do we go? Did I say that Candace not weighing in on... Oh, yeah, I read that one. Follow Bradley's Fun also says, so poutine tacos? I guess that's between you and I. That kind of sounds gross. I do like poutine, but I don't know if it would go in a taco.
Yeah, I do like poutine as well.
Although here they make a sandwich that has a tamal inside, and that's an actual meal.
That's horrible.
Follow Bradley's Fun asks, is there any major theme park or amusement park in or near Mexico City?
Yeah, but it's horrible. It's Six Flags, and it's right in downtown.
But there's quite a few more. There's the Six Flags, but there's a children's museum. That one's kind of sad because they've let it kind of waste away. There used to be La Feria de Chapultepec, which is in the middle of the city, but they've also kind of let that one fall into disrepair. And then there's a Six Flags. And around Mexico City, I think there's a few, like we have what's called Children's City. There's one in the city, but then there's an even bigger one, because I used to go to that one when I was little. But then now they built an even bigger one, and it's basically like a little town where kids can pretend to be adults, and they can like make their own, I don't know, pastries, and they can pretend to be the police, and then they can pretend. So that one was cool. But formal other theme parks that I can think about right now, no, because we don't.
No, but
I don't really go to theme parks and like amusement parks. I'd love to go. I used to want to go to Disney. Now I kind of want to go to Universal, but only because I kind of want to see the food and the theming and etc. But I'm like deathly afraid of heights. I can't. If I'm on a third floor, I already get vertigo, so I don't go on the rides or most of the rides. So I'm interested in them just because of the like theming aspect and the storytelling aspect of it.
Yeah, there's a lot of little like these play centers in the mall that are actually pretty extravagant, where they have these fake airplanes, and I mean, there's I would say probably hundreds of these things around Mexico City. There's a lot of like spaces for children. Even high-end restaurants that you would consider maybe 3 or 4 stars have these huge play areas for kids. And then, yeah, every single restaurant has to have usually a 3-story jungle gym play area for their kids. It's crazy because we were living in Canada and they were taking out all the play areas and all the McDonald's and all the fast food restaurants. It's definitely family oriented and child oriented anywhere you go in Mexico City or in Mexico in general.
Follow the Belly's Fun says, does Candace believe the earth is flat? I think at some point she did. I don't know if she changed her mind on that one. She also said dinosaurs are gay, and that there's no evidence that dinosaurs actually existed.
Okay,
I remember that was one thing.
Let's stop picking on Candace and
you don't have to defend her. Also, like
no, I'm not defending her. I want to give her room to continue to ask questions and actually get it to a logical end, rather than shutting her down because everybody's making fun of her.
I'm not shutting her down, but
no, but in general, people are ganging up on her at this point, and I can understand why. But I think if we dismantle her questions, and that's what's starting to happen now with the bullet, with the round. I mean, step by step, they're dismantling the evidence, and that's why Ian Carroll and the rest of our followers are coming out hard tonight, really trying to represent the evidence they think is legitimate, because some of it is starting to be undermined.
And again, if you haven't watched Kaizen's video, Kaizen, kind of going through each theory that Candace has given out and giving, not debunking them, but giving alternative points of view or theories that kind of make the argument crumble all by its own weight.
And I will just reiterate, if she does end up having a huge reveal that undermines big institutions like the intelligence agencies in the United States, I think that's definitely an indication she is working for another intelligence agency like MI6. MI6 has been trying to undermine the Trump administration from 2016. There's a lot of social media commentators that have really been following this trend since the 1970s of British intelligence really trying to undermine the United States. This would be Prometheus Action or Tom Longo.
Okay. Hold on. Father Riley's Fun says there's a Six Flags there. Wow. Yes, but I haven't gone in a long time. But I do think I've also heard that it's falling into a little bit of disrepair. Our current government doesn't care about anything with the city. All the streets are full of holes. There's no real proper repairs being done within the city as compared to past governments that were also doing a bad job.
Yeah, but I will say this, because a lot of people say the United States isn't doing good. Man, the United States is number one right now, especially when you compare them to every other country.
Yes.
If we get a chance to go into the stories later, a lot of the things Trump is doing is absolutely amazing. It's just not getting enough recognition now. But I think it's going to hit even more as it gets closer to the midterms because he's laid the groundwork. That being said, Mexico is not doing that bad when I compare them to Europe or to Canada. Europe right now is completely falling apart. They need a world war just to hold things together, and they want to wrangle in the United States in that war. And I hope Trump's smart enough to not get involved.
And Follow the Rallies Fun says, you must hate my show intro. I can watch it on screen. Like, I don't get too scared if I watch like a run through of, for example, a roller coaster. But if it's somebody like leaning over like a cliff or something, that does get me, even if it's on video. But no, I don't hate it. Follow the Rallies Fun also says, I've only visited 2 places in Mexico, Reynosa and Acapulco. Acapulco's nice. It's been a lot more dangerous lately because once again, corruption, and there's nothing being done about the state of security here. But I will say I haven't been to Reynosa, but I do like Acapulco and the nicer bits. But right now I wouldn't go just because you never know, especially on the highway. There's been a lot of kidnappings and what's it called? When people try to rob you.
Hostage taking.
When people try to rob you. Robberies.
Yeah.
Of course. I can't think today.
That being said, yeah, there is definitely a shared power structure here in Mexico between the cartels and the government. It's unlike a lot of countries in the world. That being said, that's one reason a digital ID and a digital currency may not take real root here, meaning they'll have it just to tell globalists or the United States, yes, we have a digital ID, we have a digital currency, but they'll have alternatives and they won't really work very well. For instance, the digital ID here in Mexico, what it is you print it off of your own computer and you laminate it at home, and supposedly that's your digital ID. Most people in Mexico, or a large portion of people in Mexico, don't have any kind of functional ID. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And hold on, Follow the Bradley's Fun. Thank you so much for all your comments as well. Says, I'm just curious, and I'm guessing this is a question for you because the guy is very big into the conspiracy theory realm and world. I'm not.
Every night.
Yes, and then he listens to that as he goes to sleep, and then he gets scared in the middle of the night.
I get nightmares about
conspiracy. He thinks aliens are coming. Follow the Bradley's Fun says, I'm just curious. I see so much flat Earth stuff today, and it bothers me, and I'm a fairly religious person.
Yeah, I mean, I've actually come to respect flat Earth a lot more. Not that I believe it in any way, shape, or form, but just the fact allowing people to actually have questions on that stuff. Because if you can have questions on that, you can have questions on anything. Meaning, if there's another jibby jab era, hopefully we'll be able to question that. No matter how ridiculous anything is, we need to have proper free speech. And although I might think it's ridiculous, flat earthers don't. So have it disproved in an actual debate. And I do watch a lot of flat Earth debates, and the flat earthers never have a real serious argument to go with.
And that's the thing. And again, I do think that having those kinds of theories or those kinds of conversations or debates helps regular people kind of employ that critical thinking skill that is being lost, and also that discernment of being able to say, okay, this is why I don't think this person is correct in this and this and this way, instead of just passively watching something where they're telling you this is the way it is, believe it.
Yeah.
And I think the democratization of media, social media, and journalism as well has helped with that. But we can also fall into the Candaces of the world and the Candace issues. But now that people are coming and trying to either debunk or go against or disprove what she said, I think, again, that brings us back into that discernment and being able to question even the ones that question.
Well, you have to just look at Europe right now and the authoritarian nature of their speech. They're really coming after their citizens, what's acceptable to and not to say. Mm-hmm. You can't say there's male and female skeletons. Somebody got arrested the other day. We did a report on that. But that kind of authoritarianism is very scary because the subject to flat Earth. Everybody used to believe the Earth was flat because authoritarianism said, yeah, that's the only speech that we allow. The Earth is flat. So it's very important that we don't ban that kind of speech and we have those debates, even if it's extremely ridiculous.
And hold on. I think she's eating something.
Oh.
We have a dog, and one of my chairs broke, and she's been eating the bits of plastic, which she's not allowed to do because it's dangerous. She'll be fine. We just need to get it out of her mouth. Hold on, I'll answer Follow the Bradley's fun stuff. He says, I agree with that. Trump, I'm guessing what Guy said. Yes. And Follow the Bradley's fun says, I've jumped out of airplanes. For some reason, flying doesn't get to me. Like, if I'm on an airplane, I wouldn't be scared. I'd never jump out of one. I'd probably as I'm supposed to go, I'd just stop being on this earth and then just fall down.
Yeah.
I could never do that, but impressive. Would you do it?
What, jump out of airplanes? Yeah, I've jumped out of airplanes before.
Okay. I would never even consider it. I can watch it.
But
I can watch people do it, and it doesn't give me the same, like, I don't get as scared when I'm watching it as I do, for example, over a cliff. Especially in man-made buildings, I think it's the perspective thing and issue. Like, if I can see a building that's right next to me and then I can look down, that's what scares me.
No.
If it's a mountain, it's less so. So I guess if it's a sky.
Women are typically scared of heights because they don't face their fears as much as men on a regular basis. Like, I used to be extremely scared of heights. Then I just kept facing my fears and I just kept doing things with heights. Heights didn't bother me for a long time. And then I stopped facing that fear. And then now I'm extremely scared of heights again. But it can be trained out of you. But a lot of
anything can be trained out of you.
Yeah, but typically men are a common theme with men, I think, is they continuously face their fears.
I face you every day.
Yeah, you do.
Hold on. Where are we? Father Bradley's fan says, I was in Acapulco in 1991. Then you got the good bit, I guess. You got the nicer era of Acapulco from like the 70s, I would say, 75 to about early 2000s. It was kind of pretty good. It was good. And then it kind of declined and became also controlled by criminal organizations, as most of the rest of Mexico. Father Bradley's fan says, we stayed at the Acapulco Princess Hotel and it was amazing. I've been to the Acapulco Princess Hotel. I was at a dance competition. I used to compete in dance. I used to do dance competitively.
Irish dance.
And other types of dance. That one was an Irish dance.
Yeah.
But I used to do other types of dance as well. And you could already see it kind of declining, but this was, again, towards the mid-2000s. So,
yeah.
But it looked like it was very nice. It's just they didn't care to keep it up. Father Bradley's fan says, I get questions, but there's something simple observations like an eclipse. But there's some simple observations like an eclipse. It's a little different than the jibby jab, for example. Yeah. And exactly, there is concrete truth that we know about, that we should all be aware of, and that we have to acknowledge. There's concrete proof, biological truth. There's men, there's women. We're genetically different.
Yeah, but that stuff's now they're saying you can't even talk about that. It's crazy.
No, but because they want you to question it. That's the thing. They don't want you to question what they've questioned and come up with kind of like Candace. They've come up with a conclusion that there's a billion different genders, and you can't question that conclusion. And that's the problem. If you're allowed to question one thing, but then you can't question them on what they've questioned. Sorry for saying question so much. That's where the actual truth-seeking and knowledge breaks down. And that's the issue. Hold on. Father Bradley's fan says, I imagine many people in Europe did not see that coming.
God, I don't know. I fear the future of Europe. I mean, we were talking yesterday about the conscription policies they're bringing in, not just on a individual country level, but on an EU level, and how they're flooding the EU with migrants on top of that, which just brings another element. And we talked about possible outcomes, and there are no good outcomes right now other than the one being proposed by Trump, and that is to free some of these European countries from their EU masters. Right now, he's trying to get Italy, Hungary, Poland, and it starts with an A. Austria to do make Europe great again and separate from the EU dictatorship. They have to get out from underneath the thumb of the EU in order to get their sovereignty back. It's been completely taken away from them.
And Follow the Bradley's fun. FT TBF, I'm going to say, I guess. Says, hold on, shoot, not shoot. Okay. And also says, I'm afraid of In the Heights. It's awful. That too. The musical, I'm guessing you mean. Yes, it is awful. And of the main lady. Father Bradley's Fun says, I'm trained in tap and jazz. I don't really dance now. I'm old. I don't dance either. I used to teach as well, but yes, I'm old too. And my knees kind of got destroyed from all the different types of dance I used to do. They crack a lot now. Every time I kneel down, it's like a symphony. Father Bradley's Fun says, yeah, that's ridiculous, not being able to talk about real biology, but that's where they want you. They want, and eventually what's happened in Canada is they've gotten people to censor themselves and police themselves. And that's when the conversation stops, when you're not allowed to say something because you'll be some kind of phobic, transphobic, racist, etc. When people start being afraid to say things because of not wanting to receive the social punishment, then the governments, for example, don't really have much of a job to do because they've done it already. They've gotten you to stop questioning, talking, and self-censoring.
Well, we were talking about the other day, and man, I was just watching a 2-hour interview before this with an expert on Aboriginal land rights. It really seems like the UN, the Canadian government, and these First Nations tribes are working in conjunction with each other to really take away private property rights in Canada and really create, I think, the first step in a global governance. I think they're trying to cede power to the Aboriginal tribes and then to the UN in conjunction. And I think they're going to try it here in Mexico too. That's why they keep doing these land acknowledgements. And I was watching the guy today, and the way the UN brought in laws into Canada in order to take land away from the Canadian government, give it to Aboriginal tribes, but it's actually shared power. It's absolutely insane. And I think as these stories continue to develop in Canada, hopefully people wake up to what the UN is actually trying to do and how they're trying to build a bureaucracy, much like the EU is taking sovereignty away from the countries in Europe.
And hold on. Where was I? Follow the Bradley's Fun also says, yeah, that's ridiculous, not being able to talk about biology. And again, it's removing what actual truth and knowledge.
You read that one.
Oh, I did? Okay. Yeah. Follow Bradley's Fun says, just call me Ron. Sorry, Ron. I was going to start calling you Ron, but I didn't know if people would know who it was. I usually, if it's a really long username, I eventually just give people a nickname and just say, this is how I'm going to call you. Ron also says, mine too, I get it, knees, yeah, and age as well.
Yeah, my back is just done.
Yeah. Ron also says, who else is here in the chat? Say hi. And thank you for everybody that did come over from Ron or Follow the Bradley's Fun channel. And also says, make sure to hit that like button. Thank you so much. And we always forget to say that. I think we said it at the beginning. But yes, we're trying to get to 1,000 subscribers. We do have quite a few more on our Spanish channel where I do a live also after this one, all in Spanish politics and entertainment. But this one we started later and we're trying to grow as well. There's the dog. Ron says, always Ron, never right. So sad. That's funny. Okay, should we actually? It's like we made a show with Ron.
Yeah. You don't need to bring up the words. Just bring up the clip.
Okay. Hold on. So some people say this from Shara Bezra. Erica Kirk is officially part of the cover-up. According to this person. And this is the interview that will be released, I believe, this weekend between Erica Kirk and Barry Weiss, now in her new CBS
the
position.
Clips are going to work in conjunction, so one story is going to lead into another. We started with this because I just wanted to get Erica saying what she's saying, and then Candace is going to respond.
And this is kind of the conversation that was really circling around yesterday.
The podcaster Candace Owens. Okay? At one time, a friend of Charlie's, at one time, an employee of Turning Point. She has been one of the main peddlers of these conspiracies, and she is making a huge amount of money on it. She is building her business off of these lies. What do you want to say to her and the other people that are putting these lies out into the world right now?
Stop. That's it. That's all I have to say. Stop.
The podcaster Candace.
And now we can go into the Candace clip, and you really need to know that pretext to understand that Candace said she would stop if Erica told her or her husband told her
Quite
to
a few
stop.
times as well, she said that. And usually we just grab, unless we say otherwise, we grab clips or stories or posts from random people. Mostly we don't, we're not selecting based on who posted it most of the time. But Reverend Jordan Wells says, quote, Candace Owens gets caught in a 4K
Yeah,
lie.
we can just play the clip here.
Okay, hold on.
Butterfly writes, Candace, you mentioned several times that if Erica asked you to stop, you would, in fact, stop. Will you honor her request? Please stand by your word and honor what Charlie left behind. Prayers to you. I was very clear here. Erica asked me to stop lying, and I will immediately abide by that request. You know, Candace is lying. What do you want to say? Please stop. Please stop lying. I understand. I comprehend. What I don't comprehend is what I've lied about. Have I made errors along the way? Yes. But as soon as she tells me what it is I've lied about, I will cease lying immediately.
Okay.
I am on this journey to figure out what happened on that day. I'm not going to stop unless Erica Kirk asks me to stop.
We were told that if we said stop, they would stop. And we said stop. And I'll say it again. Please stop.
Okay, and you can stop it there. And she didn't say stop lying at any point. She simply said stop.
Stop,
There's a lot of
literally.
reasons you could want Candace to stop, not just because she's not lying, but because the drama and vitriol and a lot of the other things that are happening with the court case with TPUSA, she told her to stop, not stop lying, but just stop. And normally that one, I don't think it would make two bits of difference if she told her to stop, other than the fact that Candace is the one that said on multiple occasions that she would stop if
As a
Erica
shield.
told her to stop. And I'm not somebody that necessarily likes everything about Erica Kirk. I pointed out in the past, I don't find her to be the most authentic person in the world. But that being said, she is saying stop, and Candace said she would. And Candace, when she's addressing it, she's addressing the fact that, well, she said stop lying. No, she never said that.
Exactly.
And I think when Candace said that on her show the other day, I was like, did she say stop
Yesterday.
lying? And I had to go back and look. And that's why I grabbed the clips. I was like, no, she didn't say stop lying. It was very distinctive. She just said stop, and she was silent after that.
Exactly. And it's not only those two clips that she said it on, but she said it on multiple interviews. Right now, she's on a kind of press tour or news tour promoting Charlie Kirk's last book about the Sabbath. People have their own opinions about that as well. And it goes into the whole conspiracy theories that people have too. But it is understandable that she's wanting to take the place, maybe not even as the CEO of Turning Point, but just as the wife. And then usually when men die and they publish their works that were never published, it's the family or the wife or the kids that presented because they were closest to the person. And that's understandable. But Candace made a whole giant thing yesterday and drama about Erica coming out and speaking out. It's all about her. Candace kept saying, it's about me. They're talking about me. Obviously, it's about me. She literally came to say that before her show, during her show, and after her show. So we know where the intention lies. And she is being more and more transparent now. And I think more and more people, thanks to her transparency and her grasping at straws and cracking under pressure, I think, are starting to realize and feel more emboldened to speak out, especially the bigger names in the conservative influencer commentary space.
Candace is starting to crack. Yesterday's show was just about mudslinging. She wasn't presenting any evidence or even a theory at that point. She didn't even go on today. I was listening to a lot of her questions in the beginning, and I'll still listen to the questions. The thing is, I'm more interested to listening to Ian Carroll and the other military commentators that are kind of asking questions that are actually based upon facts and saying, rather than Candace, that she's not presenting a lot of facts here, and she's getting involved in just like conservative commentary mudslinging.
And drama.
Yeah, and I think it's going to get worse for her this weekend with the big interview. On Monday is going to come the TPUSA event, and I think the worst thing on top, the cherry on top with the whipped cream, I think as well, is going to be Nick Fuentes just pouring it all over Candace Owens. He is going to look into her husband, and anybody that's even looked into Candace Owens' husband a little bit has more than a few questions. I mean, I think the entire thing driving this thing are the question marks around her husband, and Nick Fuentes is the one that I think hopefully digs into that on Monday.
And he said he would if TPUSA didn't come up with, enough. And I think Yes, if Candace is gonna open the door to everybody questioning Erica, TPUSA, everything about the case, Charlie, his wife, well, his widow now, his children, even some people have started going into, which I think is completely disgusting. Even with the Erica Kirk stuff, I'm like, just back off a little bit at least. But then the floor is open for anybody to question and look into Candace, her family, her husband's family, the connections they have. But she doesn't seem, and she's trying to stop it. Yesterday, it was very clear she was trying to stop that train, and she can't.
Yeah, and I think because it's kind of Tucker, Candace, and Ian Carroll on this one side, and I think they were thinking Nick Fuentes was naturally going to come over, and he didn't. And because he's within that sphere of America First social media commentators, he actually has the most to gain if she's proven wrong. And the fact that he's the one laying on a lot of these questions. And when you start digging into her husband, the thing is, there's a good chance he's connected not only to intelligence agencies, but a lot of big money. And when you start asking those kind of questions, Candace Owens' own audience is the one to slop that kind of stuff up the most. Mm-hmm. So
true. Ron says, hold on, where am I? Ron says, like, subscribe, share, and click that notifications bell. Thank you so much. And again, we always forget to say it. And I always feel, I don't know if it ever goes away, but I'm almost even embarrassed to always say that. I don't know why. It's always been hard for me. And I always forget to do it in Spanish too.
And there's a couple more people here now.
Yes, thank you so much. Ron says, sounds a little rough. Yes, now our dog, she finally fell asleep.
Yeah.
She eventually, because we're right at that time where people come back from work or they start having people over, and if she hears one footstep outside, she'll just go. She thinks she's a guard dog, but she's mostly furniture. She sleeps all day. She's kind of old now. Mary DeSimone says, let the guy talk. Everybody always tells me to let you talk. I feel like he talks most of the time.
Well, no, I think because I was defending Candace Owens for so long, I was going along with her questions, and I still watch a lot of Ian Carroll and that side just to know what their arguments are. I think a lot of the audience is coming back to see that other side, and she's losing me over time, especially the more I research the bullet and the gun. That's the foundation of everything they're laying. If that falls apart, the entire thing Candace Owens is kind of selling is falling apart. If she is with British intelligence, she's going to have a big reveal next week. I think people are going to really start turning on her, not because maybe they don't like her, but because she the evidence is starting to crack.
And this just proves how I let him talk, because I couldn't even finish reading that comment. Mary DeSimone says, let the guy talk. Good Lord, stop interrupting. I would like to hear what proof there is that they are feds. That's the thing. There's, right as of now, in my opinion, and from what you have not shown me, there is no concrete proof. It's just speculation mostly.
Yeah, who Candace Owens is?
That they're all feds.
Oh, yeah. So Tim Pool used to work for Vice News. First of all, I like Tim Pool. I like Ian Carroll. Over time, I've grown an affinity for Nick Fuentes, not because I agree with all of his views, but man, he really pushes the boundaries of free speech. And if you know he's on social media, you know free speech is pretty safe. That being said, we'll maybe start with Nick Fuentes. Nick Fuentes was at January 6th saying, take down the barriers, disregard the police, go into the Capitol. And then shortly after that, he was completely uncensored. That just shows me something happened at that time around January 6th, either slightly before or slightly after, that he's probably a Fed. But just because somebody's a Fed, I actually think he's cooperating with the intelligence agency that's probably most aligned with Trump right now. I think Tim Pool is potentially a Fed because he used to work for Vice News. Vice News was supposed to be the new National Geographics. Most people know what happened with National Geographics. They were hiring a lot of intelligence agents and pushing them around the world as photographers and journalists. Vice News was supposed to be the new kind of thing of that. Shortly after leaving Vice News, Tim Pool went to 3 color revolutions around the world and a lot of other big stories in places normal journalists just aren't. So I think that's a lot of evidence there. Who else do we got? Ian Carroll. Ian Carroll's doing conspiracy theories, and I'll say, yeah, he's good, but there's a lot of people doing conspiracy theory channels, number one. And number two, YouTube was actually, not demonetizing, but
Platforming?
shadow
banning.
Yeah, shadow banning conspiracy channels for a long time. And during that time, Ian Carroll just shot to the top. It was a really inorganic growth. His channel's very young to have that many subscribers, and he got a lot of that before Candace Owens. He really just came out of nowhere, and I think that's could potentially connect him to an intelligence agency. Although that being said, I really think he might not even know he's connected to an intelligence agency through Candace. And I think Candace is connected through her husband, who, Nick Fuentes went a lot into this, but her husband's family, specifically her father, is handling the crown jewels of England, as well as having hundreds of
His
millions.
father is connected to somebody that handles them.
And they have hundreds of millions of dollars, and they're investing millions of dollars into influencing different conservative movements, mainly in America. And he was talking about a lot of this and how to influence American conservative influencers even before he was with Candace. Nick Fuentes has laid out a lot of other reasons they think Candace may be a Fed as well, but we'll kind of leave it there. Because I've kind of gone over that information every single episode because somebody asked a question.
Okay, and I'm back. I was letting you talk. Hold on. Non-D3K says Mrs. Kirk is a Mossad honeypot and a terrible actor.
And I definitely think Erica Kirk has the most connections to an intelligence agency, that being Mossad. Her father worked for Raytheon Israel. Her mother also worked for the government all the way back from 2013. There are a lot of question marks. Why was she in Romania doing a lot of different things? And you don't really want to talk shit about a widow, but man, she has a lot of question marks around her that would connect her directly to Mossad, I think.
And for me, I would say when those theories started appearing and coming out about specifically Erica Kirk, the widow of Charlie Kirk, who had to see her husband assassinated in almost 4K, although the video was pretty grainy, but still, it was a very public affair. I did not like those theories coming out right afterwards, right as it happened, and attacking her and her children. I mean, be her Mossad, whatever, or be her connected to whoever she's connected. She did push out 2 of her kids out of her hoo-ha. I mean, she wouldn't do that if she's not in love with the man, at least partially or fully, I would say. I'm fully on the side of she's in love, they were in love, and Candace was jealous of that love.
Yeah.
That's my theory.
And I will say this.
But I do find it quite disgusting. I would say that it's only been 3 months. Again, people say, oh, it's been 3 months, it's fine. It's still a lot she's going to have to live with this for the rest of her life without a father for her children, without somebody to be there and help her with everything that it entails to raise children. And not just that, but also work and be the CEO that Charlie wanted her to be, apparently, of Turning Point USA. Yes, maybe there should have been somebody stepping in the meantime, because right now she's having to grapple and grasp between having to grieve her husband, if we do believe they were in love, which I do, grieve her husband and look at the future and see what's going to happen, but at the same time seem strong enough to be the CEO that she was put in charge, allegedly, I would say, at least by her husband. I do think the attack specifically against her, maybe not so much the Turning Point people, they were friends and they were very close people to Charlie, so I do think those are unsubstantiated, at least by now, but specifically against Erica Kirk and the whole theory that
I completely disagree. Like, if she was just the widow and she wasn't the CEO of Turning Point USA, if she has connections to intelligence agencies and a lot of her past, I would say don't question her if she was just a widow. But the fact that she's the head of TPUSA now, I think it is okay to ask those questions.
Yes, ask them, but the attacks, the unnecessary attacks on her character, etc., I think are going too far. In my opinion.
I think she's,
because I wouldn't want that to happen to me if, God forbid, something happened to you.
I also don't think she should be the CEO right now. So,
And that's
but-
why I said they maybe should have put an interim in there. I do agree with that if she has to go through the grieving process and come back when she's ready. But right now in interviews in which she has to speak out, of course she's going to look like an actress because she's trying to act and not cry herself in a little ball in the floor while she's being interviewed. Of course she has to put on a face to be able to answer the questions. And I think she wants to do it because she wants to honor her husband's memory right now, especially in this book tour and with this last book that had to be published posthumously of Charlie Kirk. She's going to have to put up a front and she's going to have to act in a certain way because she can't crumble in front of every TV camera that's pointed at her right now.
Yeah, but I think she's bringing TPUSA.
And maybe she's not a good actress because she's trying to grapple between those
but she's
two.
bringing TPUSA in a very distinct direction, and that's to align it with Israel. And normally that would be okay, but everybody knows right now there's too many question marks around that subject. Wait a year or two, especially after the midterms, until you start driving TPUSA in that direction, if that's what she wants to do. She's losing a lot of support for the organization because she's connecting TPUSA with Israel publicly at the hip at a time people were having questions about TPUSA and Israel. So if she wants to bring it in that direction, number one, she needs to wait till after the midterm and do it in a more discreet manner.
And I guess I also don't have Israel derangement syndrome. I do think that they are involved, but there's a lot of other entities involved in U.S. politics and politics around the world. The Catholic Church is fully in there as well, and nobody questions them and nobody talks about them.
I do all the time.
I know we do, but I think in general, people just look at this one country that has a lot of influence, but they don't look at all the other ones that are also China. What about China in the universities? What about Qatar in the universities? What about the Muslim influence that's going over into the U.S. right now and saying we want to take over the United States?
You don't need Israel derangement syndrome to realize Israel has lost the left at this point. They lost half the right. They only have the remaining half of the right, which is really the traditional GOP. And they want to make sure they don't get abandoned by that faction too. Otherwise, they're going to be left alone to defend their country.
And that's what should happen.
But they're really using TPUSA as an engine to reconnect Israel with the GOP, but they're doing it in a fashion that I think is building a lot of distrust right now in TPUSA. That's why I say if they want to go in that direction, they need to wait till at least after the midterms.
Okay. I just think people want to point everything at Israel that is unexplainable or that they can't explain, then it's Israel's fault. And as Nick said, Fuentes, which I'm not a fan of, and I've said I'm not a fan of, has come out and said himself that Candace's theory that it was Israel, everything's Israel, actually weakens the cause of the actual things that Israel has been involved in and is provable, and there has been evidence provided for that.
Yeah, but nobody's saying Israel right now. What I am saying is
not you, but like they are.
But what I'm saying is, in general, they want to disengage from foreign influence. That's what the America First movement is about. It's not just Israel. They want to disengage from funding Qatar, from funding Egypt, from funding Jordan. Jordan and Egypt both get $2 billion a year. It's not just Israel they want to defund. Yeah. They want to disengage from Israel. That's extremely dangerous for Israel. And you have to realize Israel right now desperately has to hold on to the last faction that they have within U.S. politics. And they're doing that through TPUSA.
Okay. You said that twice. Ron says, welcome, Mary. And non-D3K says, TPUSA suffered a hostile Zionist takeover. Which
I agree with that.
Ron says, if Candace is found out to be incorrect, someone will surely say, well, Candy is licked. That's great. But yeah. D3K says, the right-wing fracture is just a multi-front limited hangout.
Oh, read that comment again.
The right-wing fracture is just a multi-front limited hangout.
Yeah.
Hold on.
Well, I honestly think, they're vying for power. There's still a year to the midterms, so there's a lot of time to get this together. And the one big bright spot is actually Trump. It realizes the fracture, and he's moving back to the America First base with every single policy, every single day. So, the amount of stories I'm grabbing that we're not getting to because we're being consumed by Candace for most of the show.
Yes.
It's so many America First policies. There must be 5 or 6 stories daily that we skip over that Trump is really driving his administration back towards his base and the promises he made during this 2016 campaign.
And hold on. Hello, Rafa. Rafa has been, I think, our first
by
and
far the
strongest
longest.
supporter on both this and the Spanish channel. So we really like Rafa. Rafa says, hello, Nat and Guy, and hi to everyone being nice in the chat. Thank you, Rafa, for that, Rafa. And hold on, Non-D3K says, it's like Scholastic News. What's wrong with this picture? And that's the thing. There's a lot of things wrong, I think, with all the theories floating around, and also with not letting the actual prosecution and the trial be at the center of it. Hold on. Non-D3K, yes. It says, I agree, Candace is fizzling out, and that's the thing. Trent Briggs says, we love you, Candace. Shame on Megyn Kelly. Well, and I did see what Megyn Kelly came out to say today, where she said that, again, and she has a legal background, and she's saying that a lot of the things, like the U.S. government and the investigators and the Utah Sheriff or Police Department and the FBI don't owe the regular people answers right now when they're trying to build a case. And that is kind of what I've been saying all along, with Tucker complaining, why haven't we gotten more information? It's like, you're not owed that information. That information is owed to the victim or the victim's families and to the defense and the prosecution that are trying to build the case right now before it actually goes to trial. Afterwards, sure, request the information if it's not sealed or if there's no reason for it to be hidden away. But right now, when they're trying to build a case and everybody who thinks they're anybody on the internet is saying, give me the information. Why do you deserve it? What do you have to do with the case?
I'll tell you why.
So we don't taint the jury pool and we don't taint the entire case.
Why do you think everybody thinks they deserve the information? Because of what?
Because the government has lied over and over.
Because of what Trump did during the Epstein files. He called a bunch of social media influencers in, gave them binders, said, oh, here's all the Epstein files. They all went back out to their social media platforms, said, we're going to release this tomorrow. We got all the files. And it was a big nothing burger. And like the whole thing. And so it just set precedents now where people think they're privy to a lot of this information.
And I guess that was a big error. But I also understand where they were coming from.
But at the time,
we want independent journalists to be able to also have access, which is important. But
well, at the time, I loved the move. The problem is they didn't actually put anything in the binders. And number two,
it did look a little bit ridiculous.
Well, and number two, they keep covering up this whole Epstein thing. I mean,
more stuff.
Just recently, they were supposed to release the Florida case files for the Epstein case, and the Congress voted to not release them again.
And on the 3K, sorry, I'm waiting for my contacts to come. I need context to be able to read, and my eye keeps tearing up because of it. And it looks like I'm crying. I'm not crying. Says non-D3K says, new subscriber. I find myself agreeing with the guy a lot. All these figures have elitist and intelligence connections. Carlson is definitely CIA. And you've been saying that for a long time.
Sorry, that was the one person I didn't bring up. Tucker Carlson has some of the most egregious CIA connections through his father. And many CIA operatives are actually, they grandfather in their kids, or they train their kids from a young age to follow in their footsteps into the CIA, and the CIA typically recruits the children of CIA assets. So I think Tucker Carlson is definitely an asset as well. So like I said, I think we're looking at a battle of intelligence agencies. We have multiple factions within U.S. intelligence agencies. We have Israeli intelligence agencies, the City of London, MI6 intelligence agencies, all working through social media influencers to influence the mind of the general public in the United States.
And they used to do that through traditional media as well.
Yeah, it was all
but
done,
now they lost traditional media, and people lost trust because of that, partly in traditional media. So now they're going to where the new media space is.
Well,
so I mean, I do see how it could be feasible for that to happen.
Well, and this is the first time maybe in history you have somebody that came into either the Democrats or Republicans, completely reformed it. But once he leaves, it's up for grabs. Whoever can get control of the social media space and the voters on the conservative side really will take over the conservative movement going forward. And I think that's why the knives are out in such a public manner right now.
And Ron says, we are all connected to each other in a circle, in a hoop that never ends. Have you ever heard the wolf cry to the blue corn moon? Thank you for that one. Yes.
Okay.
I missed that movie. Trent Briggs says, Erica doesn't want to disrupt the TPUSA money train.
And I mean, TPUSA is just moving away from their core mission. Their core mission is they are the voting arm or the campaign arm of the Conservative Party. They're going into housing finances, building homes, sending Christian preachers over to Israel to put them in this big training program. They've already sent 1,000. They're sending another 10,000 in the next 36 months. They're handpicking these people. They're really tip of the spear with that movement. I mean, just go back to your core stuff, especially before the midterms. Get into these debates. If you can't do them live anymore, start doing them on social media. Really get into the debate space, really get into outreach to the youth, stuff like this.
And I mean, not to fully defend TPUSA, again, I've said there's a lot of things TPUSA does and has said and has done, even with Charlie Kirk, that I didn't agree with or I thought were not going to be as effective as they thought that it was going to be. And I was a fan of Charlie. I've been inspired by Charlie, especially here in Mexico, trying to start some sort of conservative movement. I do find a lot of inspiration with what Charlie built and what he was trying to do and what he did accomplish. But with TPUSA, I do think, for example, all of this questioning of, all the money TPUSA is getting, well, of course they're getting a lot of donations. Charlie Kirk just died and people want to continue to support that. What they're going to be doing with that money, I think it could be better well spent. But they've opened, who knows, I don't even know how many chapters they're at right now, not just in colleges and universities, but also in high schools. And that does take a lot of money. However, with Candace, where is all her money going? Where is all the millions now probably that she has made throughout these 3 months of capitalizing on Charlie Kirk's assassination? Where's that money going? What causes that furthering?
Everybody right now is in the social media space doing these stories, so it's not just Candace Owens cashing in, it's a lot of people.
But she's the one that's and everybody else as well. Where is that money going towards? I don't know, regaining trust in the American family and the American model that Charlie Kirk was trying to, further. Is that where that money's going? No, it's going to their own pocket.
A lot of people think,
and we're not monetary.
A lot of people think the direction TPUSA is now going is not the original vision of Charlie Kirk. And I like Charlie Kirk a lot, but I didn't realize how important he was to that TPUSA to keep it real, to keep it honest, to keep it authentic, to keep, because he would always gather the leaders of TPUSA and he would have these struggle sessions with him. And then he was really open to dialogue, even within his own organization, to keep it in the right direction. He knew how to make this big tent voting movement of a lot of different groups that were directly kind of against each other, but he could get them on the same page to vote for a candidate. He was so important, and I didn't realize the level of his importance until he's gone, because TPUSA is literally dying on the vine right now.
And if we look away a little bit from they're all CIA or three-letter agency theory. I do think, yes, you can never replace that aspect of Charlie Kirk. You cannot put someone in to do exactly that. But if most of the ones that are right now doing infighting, or at least trying to still fight for Charlie's name and what he looked for, got together and started talking to each other as well, instead of yelling at each other the whole time, maybe that could, redirect everything, the whole conversation towards that, especially now with the midterms. But they don't seem to want to do that right now.
There seems to be a new organization coming up. We'll bring this up as we go on in a little bit, but it's the America First. I forgot the name of it. It's America First organization put forth by Nick Fuentes. It looks like he's trying to kind of be the new TPUSA.
And Ron says, I would hope not. TPUSA is one of the main reasons Trump was elected. And exactly, but that is why that big influence and the amount of influence they have right now, especially, or they've had with voting, with the youth voting and getting engaged and turning conservative as well, turning towards faith, all of that is important to maintain. And I do agree with you. I don't think they're doing a good PR moves right now. And I think a lot of people have lost faith in that, but I still think it's recoverable, hopefully.
Yeah, it's obvious what they need to do. They just need to, at least on a surface level, not keep driving it in the direction of Israel. That's what's causing a fracture with the youth really going towards TPUSA right now. Even if they want to go in that direction, they have to wait a little while. There's too many question marks around Israel, and they're driving it right away, right towards Israel. Whatever your feelings are about Israel, it doesn't really matter. It's obvious the general public has a lot of distrust with the amount of influence Israel is having, whether that is real or whether it's not, or even if other countries have influence within the United States as well. It's been pointed out by way too many people. TPUSA is heading in a very, very pro-Zionist direction.
Trent Briggs says, although I don't think Erica is involved, but TPUSA is for sure involved. I'm guessing in Charlie Kirk's unaliving.
Yeah, and I'm open to the questions as much. Like I know you're not as open to the question as I am, but I do watch that other side, and I've been watching it from the beginning, and I'm willing to continue to hear the questions mainly from Ian Carroll and the military. Former military social media influencers that are asking these questions that are based upon facts. I'm getting to the point I've almost had enough of Candace. I'll continue to watch her just because we talk about her so much, but.
And I would say, again, I do also watch and I do see the other side, and I have watched Ian Carroll, but again, because I don't see there's any there yet still, I tend not to go with that side. Texas Ball says, let the poor man talk for F's sake. I feel like you're the one that's talking mostly. That's why I have to talk so fast so I can get a word in before he starts talking. Before he starts talking again. He's my husband, by the way. It's not like this is how we talk usually.
She's usually yelling at me.
Oh, yeah, I yell at you all the time.
Luckily, you're soft.
Confession through projection, just like Candace does.
If you can cook as much as you can yell, it'd be a much better marriage.
I used to cook for you.
Okay.
And then, yeah, he doesn't like it. From Ron, he says, I don't think anyone on the right was actually involved. I think it was far leftist Antifa type influence. And I'm mostly on that side. I do think Tyler Robinson, the insane lefties, which was the people that Charlie Kirk talked the most against and talked the most to try to defeat, were the ones that wanted to send a message and eventually defeat him. And again, do we forget that people are just actually crazy and they do get a hold of guns and they do go do crazy things as well?
Yeah, but and people are never bringing this up. There are so many questions, even though it seems like there were two far lefties involved in both attempts on Trump. There was a lot of government connections with both those people that were connected with Trump. And I think because there were so many question marks about those two events, and those happened really recently in a historical context, that's why we're automatically asking so many questions about what happened to Charlie Kirk, because their goal was actually accomplished. But because we had question marks that were never answered about the other two attempts on Trump, I think everybody's asking questions now.
Sorry, I was letting you talk.
Okay.
Hold on, what was I going to say?
And when we do
with the leftist Antifa type. And again, I do think there's more even reason for them to want to do something than anybody else. But
well, yeah,
because they hated him, and we've seen the reactions that he used to get on campus.
Hold on, and nobody's saying it's not a crazy leftist. I'm definitely saying it was a crazy leftist, but my questions happen to be, it was a crazy leftist with Trump on the first time, crazy leftist with Trump on the second time, crazy leftist with Charlie Kirk. I just think there's a lot of government collusion going on with these crazy leftists. I don't think they're popping out of nowhere, especially when you start looking at the two attempts on Trump and their past history.
And the SSRIs and for example, John Brown Club, where they were teaching these kids how to use guns and how to go against people. And they were also potentially funded by USAID. Now they got their funding cut. So I do think there's a lot of external funding wanting to rile up the Antifa and the insane people. But
well, and just because Trump's in power right now doesn't mean there aren't alternate factions within American intelligence agencies. There's still Democratic factions within intelligence agencies that I believe coordinated with the first Trump attempt and the second Trump attempt. And we're having those same questions when it comes to Charlie Kirk now.
And non-D3K, it's like, well, it's Friday. We're just kind of talking with the chat. Thank you for being here as well. Non-D3K says, lol, nothing is real. TPUSA and Mrs. Kirk brought this on themselves. Enough time has passed. She didn't have to insert herself. She is TPUSA. It's her husband. So I do think she had to insert herself.
I agree with her a bit. Like, I'm more open to that. Like, I don't think she should have been CEO. And I think if she looks inauthentic and she's CEO, it's not a good look.
There's no reasoning with you people. Again, I'm seeing it from the point of view of the more human side, which I think a lot of people have completely forgotten about right now. For example, and I wanted to bring this up the other day with the whole gun, and there's no way it got embedded, or there should have been an exit wound, or the doctor said, and then TPUSA also came out to say that he was superhuman and God helped him stop the bullet, and it was because he was so healthy. I think people forget the human side and forget, if you've never lost anybody, or you've never talked to a doctor or learned about how doctors handle these sorts of things, especially right after the event or right after somebody passes away. If there's a child dying of cancer, they're not, and then he dies, they're not going to tell the parents, well, he was too weak and he just didn't survive. They're going to say he fought as strong as he fought as much as he could, even though he was lying in bed dead and dying for a long time. They're going to say he was so strong, he fought till the end. Same if a young mother dies, and they're not, the doctor's not going to come out and say to the husband or her parents, oh well, the child survived, but your wife was obese, so that's why she died of complications from her obesity. He's not going to say that. They're going to say she passed so she could pass on life to her daughter. Of course, the doctor is going to tell his friend that just witnessed him be assassinated. He was so strong. It is a miracle that this happened. He's not going to come out right away and say they have to have some sort of human decency towards the families of the victim. And I think that's what people aren't understanding.
Everybody's looking at the human side right now. Every single person.
No, because then they
hold on.
that theory.
Everybody's making an emotional plea. Nobody's looking at the actual logic. Everybody is saying, oh, it was a crazy leftist, or, oh, it was, everybody is saying Candace Owens, she was in love with him, that's why she's doing this. Everybody's putting these emotional angles on this. And why? Because there probably isn't enough evidence released right now. And when we see in the trial, I think that's when we're going to get more into the meat and potatoes and the facts.
But again, for example, the surgeon that worked on Charlie, that said those words, that then brought on the whole theory about the 30-06 and about there's no way, there's no exit wound, and the doctor's lying, and then TPUSA is lying. All of that came out of a doctor trying to console a sad friend of Charlie's that was getting all this information. I don't think it's written down in the doctor's report of what actually happened, or in the coroner's report. I just think
you're just conjecture.
No, I'm saying people grab that because I've seen that argument made multiple times, not just by Candace, by other people, and they continue to say, oh well, there's no way that Charlie's superhuman strength would have stopped the bullet. Of course, that's not true. But
let's continue.
Again, we do forget that human angle, and also with Erica, you forget that she's trying to grapple with what to do at this moment.
But when she has so many connections to intelligence agencies, her more than almost anybody else, of course you're going to ask questions, especially when she steps in as CEO. And then she starts driving it.
But again, she was on the board. Why were these questions not asked when Charlie was alive? And she was on the board, and she was already, when she was his wife. Why were these questions not brought up then?
Let's go into the Nick Fuentes story.
Hold on, we do have still a lot of comments.
Oh, okay.
Ron says, I 100% agree with Nat. Thank you. Hold on. Oh, now I lost all the comments. Where are we? Okay, wait. Okay, Ron says, Erica already knows the truth. And I also agree with that. Trent Briggs says, Tyler didn't do it and definitely not alone. I don't think he did it alone. I do think the gay lover, roommate, whatever it was, the furry man, is also involved. And there's probably a whole bunch of other Trantifa, I will say, involved in it as well. Because again, it does seem there was some sort of foreknowledge, if not actual foreknowledge that it was going to happen, wishful thinking, and at least conversation online about them doing something like this. Ron says, I used to live in Israel. How was that? Trent Briggs says, the best way Erica
well, glad you're not over there right now, because things are really heating up over there right now.
They're going to war with like 7 different countries.
Yeah, well, not seven countries. I believe because we were reporting on that quite a bit a while ago. It was 3 countries and then 4 terrorist organizations. So, but 7 conflicts in total with 7 different groups, which is a lot. Like,
Trent Briggs says, the best way Erica can do damage control is to meet with Candace. They actually said, again, Candace is invited to go to Phoenix this Monday, and she's the one that declined it and said no, that she can't. She has to homeschool her husband. A billion excuses after 3 months of requesting they answer her questions.
Well, that's why her credibility is starting to go away, because she started playing word games and said, oh, only if Erica's there. She was invited to be there. She should have just said yes and went there. But instead of that, now she's going to live stream the live stream of the event TPUSA is doing. It's not a good look. She didn't do her show today. They got the Barry Weiss interview coming up. Nick Fuentes is going to do an expose on not only Candace Owens, but primarily her husband. I mean, shit's starting to roll downhill, and I think it's about to land on Candace Owens' head.
Follow Bradley's fun. Oh, sorry. Ron says, "Hey, Nat and the Guy, loving the discussion. Got to run for the evening, but I'll try and make more lives. Hasta la vista. Ciao for now." And we do want to try to be also on your live.
Yeah.
I know the scheduling conflict, but we'll try. And thank you so much for sharing it and for bringing over your people as well, which are very welcome here. Jamil 335 says, well, what's the theory with JD and that Nick are aligned? Yeah. We haven't gotten there yet. Hold on, we're almost done. Let me finish reading. There's a few more comments and then we'll go. Trembrig says TPUSA was supposedly address it all on the 15th. Exactly.
Hold on. I want to address it a little bit.
Fine.
JD Vance and Nick Fuentes is starting to open the door because he was so fervently against JD Vance before. He's starting to open the door to align with JD Vance. And JD Vance is keeping the door open for Nick Fuentes. We got a series of stories we're going to go into to kind of explore that more in just a minute. But JD Vance was really trying to align with Tucker Carlson for a long time because he believed he was heading the America First movement. But as this thing kind of unravels with Candace, Nick Fuentes is quickly, along with Steve Bannon, is starting to quickly become potentially the head of the America First movement. And JD Vance is going to need those voters. So it's interesting what's going on, but they've all made kind of public comments. We're going to get into that in a bit.
And I'll just try to blast through the comments.
Okay.
Reply only if you really need to. Non D3K says, you can just call me Non. Okay, I'll just say Non from now on. Like Non Amos. Okay. Non says, sure, the radical left and whatnot. Okay. Trembrig says, true, we still have no real answers on the Trump attempt. And that's another thing. Why aren't we questioning more the FBI and the CIA and all of them about all of the Trump attempts? I mean, Tucker brought up this documentary about who, oh God, I forgot the name now, who the shooter was, the one that did nick him in the ear. But again, we don't even know much about that. Where's all the questioning regarding that? Why isn't Candace focusing on that as well? Because then she could connect both and at least be an investigation about why the three-letter agencies and the investigators don't want to give us any answers on that.
Well,
and why isn't the focus also on that too?
Okay,
which is they try to take down an ex-president, but also a potential president.
Tucker Carlson did that full expose, like you said. There's a can of worms that we haven't even got into with that first attempt. But the second attempt, nobody's even questioned that guy. He openly wrote, I believe, in a book that he was working with the CIA to smuggle people from Afghanistan into Ukraine. He was in a BlackRock commercial. The CIA connections with that guy are absolutely insane. And nobody's even questioning those things. But I think because nobody questioned those things, it's all coming out with this Charlie Kirk incident. And I think that's why there are so many questions and we want to dig into it.
Non says, I believe strongly that if it was some extreme leftists, they'd be probably claiming responsibility. Well, we are going to talk about Tyler Robinson's first court appearance, but also, are we forgetting the reaction from the left right after he was assassinated? How they were gleefully cheering on everybody that did it, especially the crazy trans community. Are we forgetting that part? Because they did claim responsibility and they did say, oh, we got him, we killed, and even the people that are marginally at least connected to Tyler Robinson and to that little sect of his that were talking about how they were planning on doing this or they wanted to do this, they were also cheering and saying, oh, we did it, yes, we got him, etc. Are we forgetting that fact as well? So there is a lot of evidence on that side. It's just that nobody's looking into it, and it's also, I'm guessing, mostly being sealed or being held for trial to be able to build a case.
Well, Tyler Robinson was in court and he did wear the trans colors on his tie.
That was a very interesting tie. We'll see it in a second.
That was very interesting. I think the questions with Tyler Robinson is not that did he do it, did he not do it? The question is, what hand did the government have in it to kind of push Tyler Robinson into this? I think there was a hand. I think there was a hand, but I mean, that's why I think everybody has questions.
Hold on.
And when I say the government, it's not meaning Trump. It's meaning intelligence organizations that are loyal to the Democrats.
Non says,
or the Uniparty.
He's always in trouble. Why do people call him out? Nan says, I thought they taught us that facts don't care about your feelings. Their words, not mine. That was mostly Ben Shapiro, but yes. And Ben has kind of been almost forgotten about at this point.
Well, I think
I saw he was like on a panel regarding media and losing the trust in media, and Andrew Schultz was there, and they asked the question, but then they were all kind of discussing, and Andrew Schultz just say, well, it's the Jews in the media, and then everybody was like, oh, you can't say that, and then Ben just laughed and said, I'm Jewish, I don't care, it's true.
Yeah, I think he's just lying low right now. There is a lot of heat on Israel, and anybody that's kind of related to Israel that's a front-facing media figure is going to bring a lot of heat on that organization. So I think rightfully so, he should be laying low until things kind of...
But I do think as bad as Daily Wire has gotten, and the bad moves and bad strategy they've had, they were right on not having Candace on there anymore. Can you imagine the heat that would be coming on if Candace still had her show on Daily Wire? I don't think she'd be able to do this, but...
No.
God. Nan says the questions were being brought up. Kirk was breaking from Israel and refused Netanyahu's 150 million. And said to his friends he believed they would end him.
Yeah, and I think that's why there is a lot of questions and a lot of messages were released, and
some of them were fake.
That was actually what got me started asking questions in the first place, and why TPUSA is driving in such a hard direction with Israel right now.
But then again, some of those messages were found out to be not true. But I will also say TPUSA had already received a lot of donations from the Israeli and Jewish donors and from Netanyahu.
Nobody's denying that, but we're saying at the end he was starting to question things, and a lot of the leadership in TPUSA, they were having struggle sessions where they were talking about the direction of the organization.
But my question is, so what? They're going to kill their biggest supporter? No. And even so,
yes,
does the Israeli government want to get in this quagmire that it would be to assassinate on American soil an American citizen, a very prominent one at that, for the current administration? Would they really want to get into, what is the motivation there? And what would the consequences be if it were true for Israel as a country, the diplomatic relations and everything else going on?
Okay, first of all...
but I will say, what would motivate them to get into that whole S-storm?
So you've asked the question 3 times. Let me steelman the argument for you. They've already lost the left. They lost half the right. If they lose that remaining faction that's still loyal to Israel, they've lost all U.S. support when it comes to politics. They need to maintain a connection with the youth. Otherwise, they're no longer going to fund Israel. They're no longer going to fight Israel's wars. Israel is going to be left alone and in the cold. And what does that mean? Especially when you're fighting 7 conflicts at the same time.
Okay. And killing Charlie Kirk achieves what goal within that? How does that help them keep that faction if they killed their biggest, most prominent actor?
Because if he was questioning it and he was going to...
Okay, but now they've killed him.
Hold on.
It didn't help them.
Yeah, so now TPUSA, if they were involved, the new leadership of TPUSA, they would want to capture that new leadership and drive them hard in an Israel direction. And that's exactly what is happening with TPUSA right now. And because that's happening, a lot of people are no longer trusting TPUSA. That's why I specifically said it's very important TPUSA doesn't drive it in an Israeli direction right now. If they want to do it later, that's fine. But if they do it now, a lot of people are going to think the Israeli government is connected with what happened with Charlie Kirk.
I just think people and yourself watch too many movies.
I'm steelmanning
the argument. That's not steelman.
Yeah, it is.
At all.
100% it is.
You don't know how to debate.
Not an idiot like you.
Well, I asked, how would that benefit now that they've done it, now that they actually ended the life of one of their most fervent supporters that had that youth
and I just told you.
How did that help them?
Because what they thought is with Charlie Kirk out of the way, if he was going to move in the other direction.
But out of the way, dead?
Yeah.
But now it's all about Charlie. Yeah. And TPUSA.
What they thought is the only remaining faction that was supporting Israel, they would be able to maintain that.
But by killing their leader. Again, that makes no sense.
If the leader is going in the opposite direction and is no longer going to support Israel, it makes
And
perfect sense.
$150 million isn't that much money, not even for TPUSA.
Okay.
Not even at that point.
I'm just telling you what the argument is, whether you want
The
to.
argument, in my opinion, doesn't make a lot of sense.
Okay.
Hold on. Non says, hold on, no. Trent Briggs says, agree, Candace could be in trouble if she can't back it up. And again, she's pointed fingers at a lot of people and governments, and she doesn't seem to really care. So again, that could go to prove, maybe, in a way, not prove, but that could lend credence to the fact that she might be involved with an agency of some sort of government that could protect her. Because now she has pointed fingers and made not just allegations, but accusations against too many entities, people, random people wearing maroon shirts, people that are beekeepers, the Mormons, everybody. She's kind of touched and made accusations of, asserting that she knows things.
Yep.
And if she can't back it up, or if her whole argument fails, who's going to sue her? What's going to happen to her? What are the French actually going to do to her?
My belief was right from the beginning. She started with the hard evidence. She's waiting for the big reveal at the end as she dog walks everybody through there. Because she's working for an intelligence agency. If she does have this big reveal, I think she's always had that information. She just had to make it make sense when she revealed it. If she just reveals it all of a sudden, people are going to say, how'd you get that information? You're connected to an intelligence agency. Now that she's gone through all these episodes and made the American public feel like they're going with her and that they're the ones informing her. And now it makes sense that she didn't reveal it on her own. She didn't have the information. It was the American public that revealed it. So.
Hold on. Non says, why doesn't TPUSA let Candace stream in live? It's totally normal protocol. Not everyone can always be in the same place physically. This is why we have tech.
And I agreed with that. I completely agree with that.
No, because I will say she is the one that made all of these accusations. She was the one that demanded to be invited and to be able to question them directly. She is in no position to be now demanding how they set it up and how she can or cannot do it. And she said it's in TPUSA's court for the longest time. She said that. And then they said, this is a place that she said, name a time and a place. I'll be wherever. I'll do whatever I have to do to be there. And I will agree once again with Nick Fuentes, whom I usually don't agree with, when he said, she has been on this for 3 months, not talking about anything else, and now she has the big break of her career. She can go question them directly, face to face, ask these questions without any interference from Israel or whoever else, the Egyptians, whatever. And she doesn't take it because she knows she can't have anybody in her ear either, or she can't have any of her fans and supporters there physically. And I don't think she's scared. I think she's scared that she won't be able to back up and actually step up and do what she has been pleading and demanding to do for who knows how long. Again, it's not up to her to make demands or to try to set the terms. It was up to, no, she made
okay, I'm going to tell you why.
Hold on. She made clear, concrete accusations of almost each one of the
You're going in a circle. You're saying the same points
almost
over.
all of the big members of the TPUSA team. That now they're telling her, well, you can come in person or you can shut up and stay away.
So I'm going to tell you why they should allow her to be on a live stream. They already have the technology to do that.
Yeah, of course they do.
TPUSA has far more to lose. They're losing the public's trust right now, and they're the voting arm of the Conservative Party. So what they need to do is they need to answer these questions and kind of quell the fears of the general public. Candace Owens just happens to be the one representing kind of the big social media influencer.
No, she's fabricating.
Hold on. She's representing, according to everybody else that's asking the questions, they're kind of putting her up as the representative. So if TPUSA can't quell the fears going into the midterms, it definitely hurts them, especially when they're trying to reach out to the youth. If they can, by allowing Candace Owens on a live stream remotely, that's the best way to kind of quell the fears, answer the questions.
But the thing is, they'll be answering the questions and she'll be either interrupting or moving the goalpost, which she has continued to do. We just played a clip right now where she said, if Erica tells me to stop, I'll stop. And now she's saying, oh, she told me to stop lying. I'm not lying. So she's always going to move those goalposts. So if she's on a live stream and they can't confront her live and say, okay, hold on, this is what we're telling you. You can't move the goalpost. This is the actual fact. And she's on a live stream, then she can disconnect it anytime she wants. She can put up anything she wants on her own
Okay, we
side,
need to keep moving. But let me say one more thing. And that is, I don't think TPUSA will actually have a lot of the answers that
Because they don't exist.
Well, I don't
She
think
invented it.
I don't think TPUSA will have a lot of answers that side is asking, because I do listen to all the questions, and it's mainly the FBI or not the FBI, the people that are running the case that have the evidence and have the autopsy. That's where a lot of the questions will be answered, and that's going to happen in the trial. The problem is that side that's asking all the questions doesn't want to kind of go through all the way through with the trial to allow the government to kind of get away if they are involved with the assassination in any way, shape, or form.
And I will say, TPUSA also came out to say she is not a guest. She was not invited. She was told that this is where it was going to happen. If she can't make it, we're still going ahead with it. So they said, yes, this is not normal protocol for inviting guests because she's not a guest. They don't want her there. But they're saying we're being transparent enough that you can come into the building that you claim did all these terrible things and ask you the questions yourself. But she didn't want to do that. Nan says American citizens are the proud owners of the biggest memory hole in the universe. I will agree with that. Rafa says, I hate YouTube censorship. Oh, if any of your comments do get censored or YouTube gets weird, we're also live streaming on RUMBLE, and there they don't censor comments.
And we monitor the comments from RUMBLE as well. Okay.
Nan says, right, that's what I'm saying. The radical left wanted so badly for it to be one of their own that did it. Where are those folks now? Well, they came out, and a lot of them got fired for celebrating Charlie Kirk's assassination. But I will say they're still there. We just stopped looking at them, but they're still talking about this as well. And a lot of them are actually supporting and watching Candace because it takes the heat off of them.
Well, there was so much heat put on them because there were so many celebration videos. They realized it wasn't a good look, especially if they go into the midterms. So I think they're staying silent on this particular issue as a strategy for the midterms. I don't think it's going to be a good look if they're going out to the courthouse and supporting them, much like they're doing for the other guy in New York that did
Mamdani. No, Mamdani. God, what's his name?
The good-looking guy.
Yes, I know who. The Italian guy.
Yeah, well, they're outside of his trial every day because that's more socially acceptable. There was such a big backlash here, and it won't go good for them in the midterms if they outright support this guy.
What's his name?
That's
We've been talking about it for a long time.
Just keep going. That's fine.
I can't believe it just popped out of my brain. Nan says Kirk was absolutely not their biggest supporter. He was the most influential person on the right that started questioning Israel. They're so evil and gorged on arrogance. They think people will believe whatever they tell them. I will say, I do think people have watched too many movies.
Erica Kirk has too many ties to Israel. And specifically when people are saying...
Luigi Mangione, thank you.
Specifically when Charlie Kirk is headed in a different direction, or there's questions that he was headed in a different direction, and now Erica's taking it directly to connecting TPUSA at the hip with Israel, it's not a good look publicly. And the viewership of TPUSA is kind of reflecting that right now.
Okay. And Nan also says, and that Kirk's followers would believe the lies. Oh, that people will believe whatever they tell them, and that Kirk's followers would believe the lies. Nan also says, Candace Owens has every right to fear for her safety. Even court hearings happen on Zoom.
Hold on.
I don't think she has a right. I mean, yes, but not from where she thinks it's going to come from.
And I was all on board with
Candace.
Candace Owens needs to fear for her life, but she's now been at Dollywood. She's also been at big events, Tucker Carlson's birthday, I believe it was. Christmas party. She's going in public. She has a suspicious lack of security, meaning she does have security, but not as much as you would suspect. Tim Pool, on the other hand, has a lot more security and is getting a lot less threats. The French Foreign Legion isn't after Tim Pool like they are Candace, and the fact that she's going in public so much with a lack of security is just, it raises a lot of questions.
You really do think the French Foreign Legion is after Candace?
I don't know.
Come on. Even you have started to doubt it.
No, I'm not doubting that because I think, in my opinion, Brigitte Macron is a man, and I think that she could definitely send him after her.
Why doesn't Brigitte Macron herself come out and slap her with her?
Okay, Wing Wang. We're talking Chinese now.
Trembrig says, agree, she will need good security. Well, then she should get, oh my God. you also just agreed with me on that when she came out to ask for donations to improve her security when her husband is a multi-billionaire from London whose father is a lord, and she came out pleading to help with donations so she can up her security.
Yeah,
Like it was too, the grift was a little bit too
that was a really good.
obvious
That was
there.
actually a really good episode where she did lay out a lot of facts on that episode. The problem is at the end of that episode, she said, "Oh, I'm going to start a fund for my security, so I'm taking donations, or I'm thinking about doing that. I'm going to ask my husband." Her husband has hundreds of millions of dollars. They should be paying for that security. They don't need her audience to be doing that.
And she's getting a lot of money anyways from not just ad revenue, but also,
Oh yeah, let's continue on.
okay. I'm almost done with comments.
I
I'm
want
trying
to
read
get to
them.
this Nick Fuentes story.
I'm trying to read them faster. Yeah, because I'm going to have to change the thumbnail because we just didn't talk about almost that at all. Hold on. Non says, if she needs good security, she definitely shouldn't go. She's the one that said that. Trumbrigg says she has made a lot of enemies. I want to see.
I thought it was perfectly fair to put her on a live stream because of the security concerns. The problem is, since those security concerns, she's been seen in public way too many times without security.
Trumbrigg says she has made a lot of enemies and also says, I want to see Mickey's phone records. And also, thank you for reminding me, Luigi Mangione. Non says, love your show. I'm glad the algorithm brought me here. Thank you. We actually haven't done the show yet. We're still reading
No,
comments.
it's nice to have comments,
Yeah.
but man, we have a lot of comments.
I know. Because we do read them all, at least right now.
We try to.
Yeah, we
At some
try to
point,
read
we
them.
might have to.
Yeah, we just continue with the stories. But again, we usually talk more geopolitics, like what's actually happening, connections between different countries, digital ID, digital censorship, all of that.
We've been trying to cut it down to a half an hour of Candace Owens and
It's been an hour and 40 minutes.
conservative drama in the beginning, but I think especially next week, it's going to ramp up. So it might just be all Candace, and geopolitics will have to take a back burner for a little while.
And I mean, again, people are going on holidays. It's people pay less attention to actual politics. And it does help us with the algorithm when we talk
Okay,
about this,
let's-
apparently. Trent says she has a 4-foot fence, lol.
Yeah, a 4-foot fence and a fat bodyguard. That's what we heard. But I mean, I don't know if I can actually trust the guy that was on Timcast. He's the numerologist, and yeah.
Hold on. Non says, excellent point about her operating openly and lack of current security. And again, she asks a lot of questions and demands a lot of answers. And she, I think, should be allowed to be questioned as well. And she should give us those answers as well.
Well, I definitely think she's going to up her security because so many people are asking questions, and there's always pictures coming out of her anytime she's in public now saying, "Where's your security?" So she's going to have to do it just to get people to stop kind of asking those questions.
And Non says, I gotta go, y'all. See you next time. Thanks for doing good work. Thank you.
Adios.
Thank you for saying good work. And okay, now let's.
No, we're going to skip ahead now.
Oh,
Go
okay, now
to
we're gonna
Nick's
go.
reaction to Erica Kirk, and then we'll start going forward from there. That will bring us into JD Vance and Nick Fuentes, which was on the cover. It's the
Okay, yeah,
fourth
found
story or something.
Okay.
Okay.
I guess I'll put timestamps just for anybody on the replay so they know
Oh
when
God,
we actually started.
I can't even see Fuentes. He's camouflaged with the Christmas tree there in his shirt.
From Fuentes updates, quote, Nick reacts to Erica Kirk seething about Candace Owens on CBS with Barry Weiss. And let's see what he said.
So now Erica said, you're never going to believe what happened. So now
basically what he
Erica
does.
got on the show with Barry Weiss, and she said, it's so crazy. So Erica Kirk does a show with Barry Weiss on CBS. It's
Pause
like a
it.
town hall. It's going to
And that was a mistake. Erica Kirk did the interview with Barry Weiss. I mean, she's
And I will agree with that.
it's mainstream media funded by Israel. I mean, it's not a good look, especially with all the question marks around TPUSA. She needed to be a lot more selective with who she did that interview with. It looked a lot better when she did an interview with Glenn Beck. I know she wants to go a little bit more mainstream and maybe go to Fox News, but
Sorry.
I know
Air
they're
this
really
week.
trying to push Barry Weiss right now.
And I agree with that. And I don't like Barry Weiss or what she has done. And,
But that interview is going to come out on Saturday, and it's supposed to be pretty explosive.
they always say that.
and they published a clip. And Barry Weiss says to Erica, she goes, what do you have to say to Candace Owens and these people that are pushing conspiracy theories? And Erica, like, dude, oh my. And the Oscar goes to Erica, her face, her expression hardens, and she goes, stop. And we're supposed to be like, whoa, she means business. No, you stop. No. You need to stop. Did you guys see the clip? So she's on with the Israeli spy, Barry Weiss, after she's grabbing J.D. Vance's ass. And Barry Weiss goes, so what do you have to say to Candace Owens, who built her business lying about blah, blah? And Erica Kirk makes this like face. She goes, stop. That's it. And we're supposed to be like, Saint Olga in the flesh. The battle cry of the cries of the widow. Like, come on now. It's enough already. It's enough. It's really bad at this point. Like, you're not a good actress. This is not a compelling performance. Nobody is buying this. And look, I am not a Candace Owens fan at all, as you know. That doesn't mean that this does not stink. Like, this performance does not stink. Just drop it. Can you just be fucking normal? Because it's obvious that you're acting. It's obvious that you are putting on a facade. And that is hurting your credibility. And it's hard for anyone to be able to take their side when that is what they are offering. You know, the first week, nobody could say anything because you can't. When she did her speech on the Charlie Kirk show, and then she did the memorial, and then she was on the show again, and nobody could say anything. But now, here we are on the second wave, second leg of the tour. The handkerchief is back and better than ever. The handkerchief is actually sort of disappointed. Erica Kirk's handkerchief was recently beaten out by the artificial intelligence founders for Time Person of the Year. Should have gotten it. The handkerchief was the runner-up, so it was a little bit disappointing, kind of crushing. You know, they thought they had it, but didn't get it. The handkerchief is back and bigger and better than ever. It is making an appearance. We are on the second leg. We are on the 67th leg of the Erica Kirk tour.
Okay.
And honestly, though, it's just like, who's buying that?
And I will say this, I'm glad that he's kind of staying in his own lane there. He's not trying to team up with TPUSA against Candace. He's saying, I don't believe Candace. And I also think something's up with TPUSA, or I don't believe TPUSA is especially authentic here. And a lot of people are thinking that as well.
And I will just point out once again, how would you want her to, and this is something you haven't been able to answer, me or nobody else, what makes it seem or feel like it's inauthentic?
I have been able to point it out. And the last time we were on the show, you asked the same question. I said, well, just bring up the last clip. And every time you bring up a clip of her, she looks inauthentic. A minute ago, when she said, just stop, that wasn't authentic either. I will say, when she was on Glenn Beck, she seemed tired. Her hair wasn't done, and the mask dropped, and she seemed like a normal person. She needs to learn to do that more, not just, she seems very, she has a cadence about her, and her face is always, it's always like she's acting.
But okay, with the always, she's always acting. And I said, yes, she is acting, because have you ever had to, for example, go back to work right after something horrible happens to you?
Yeah, but she doesn't need to act, because she was on Glenn Beck, and she looked, not on the whole interview, but on parts of the interview, she looked a lot more authentic.
But again, maybe at that point, she was able to manage to do that. The other times, if she doesn't put up this facade, and if she doesn't try to be strong, or whatever you want to call it, or act like she's doing better than she is, she would be in the ball crying.
She's she's very, very careful with her words. And then when she was on Glenn Beck, she kind of just let it fly a little bit. And that's what people want. Like, for instance, you can compare Ben Shapiro to Nick Fuentes. Nick Fuentes is not using a teleprompter. It seems a lot more authentic. Even if you don't like what he says, he does seem more authentic. Ben Shapiro seems like he's reading off a teleprompter a lot.
Well, for example, I've seen when Charlie was alive and when they did go on the TPUSA Faith tour and talking about marriage and stuff, she talks pretty much the same. So it could also be that she gets nervous around people and she changes the way she speaks. I do that. And when I have to speak to a large crowd of people or to a lot of people, you have to change, and you have to not think about it, and you have to go into kind of like a setting where, yes, you're kind of acting a little bit, you're acting more confident, especially right after your husband died. I mean, for us, it's been 3 months. For her,
she shouldn't be the front-facing person there doing all these
but
things.
maybe they think it's best to put her up front and to have people have to see her because it's going to remind people of Charlie.
And it was the wrong move.
And with that, I might agree. If that's the reaction they're getting, then yes, it was the wrong move. But again, I think people are not once again considering the human element of it.
No, they thought they were going to milk this thing. And people aren't sympathetic to it because she looks like she's acting.
But again, I will say she is acting. She's acting like she's okay.
They thought they can virtue signal by putting her up front and nobody would ever ask any questions. That's what they thought.
Now you're getting back into Candace territory.
No, that's what they thought.
Questions about what?
Otherwise, they wouldn't have made her the front-facing CEO and they would have put an interim in there.
But again, I think they wanted to go with what Charlie had said, and that they were trying to make it. They're trying to make it work.
Okay,
right now.
Let's continue on. But I will say this, Nick Fuentes. I told you this the other day. I said, "Is there any social media commentator that talks politics that makes you laugh out loud?" And you said, "Yeah, there was a few for you." For me, Fuentes is the only guy that actually makes me laugh.
You make me laugh. Trent says lol, and also says Candace did say she would stop if Erica asked, though.
Yeah,
exactly. And
we started off the program with that as well.
And Trent says Erica is new to media. I give her a break, and exactly that too. And she's not that new because again, she has been on conferences, but she has the same mannerisms, and she looks very rehearsed as well when she's on stage with Charlie when they were together talking about their marriage. And again, someone said a comment the other day here as well. If you've never seen like Christian preachers, she's coming from pageantry, the pageant world, so she has all of that as well to look into and to say maybe that's where she learned it, maybe that's where she got speech classes and how to give what are those called?
People would be more
oratory classes.
People would be more forgiving with her because she doesn't look authentic, but people would forgive that if there wasn't so many questions about her past. It's crazy. Her parents, Raytheon, everything else that's in her past.
Has that been fully verified?
And yes, and then plus the direction that she's moving TPUSA in by connecting it at the hip with Israel. That's why people aren't being so forgiving when she doesn't look authentic. It's those other two reasons are the underlying factor why people are saying you don't look authentic.
But again, I think that people that say that or the gun or the this or the that, you have to look at all the factors. You have to consider all the past, the present, the everything that's connected to what you're saying, and not just go with the one version of the story that suits what you're trying to say.
Okay, let's go into the next part here.
So again, she was a pageant queen. That's how they talk.
And this is kind of starting to get into the JD Vance stuff, who was on the cover. We're going to go a little bit later tonight because we do have enough viewers. So,
from Fuentes Updates, quote, "Hold on, do you think Erica Kirk turned on JD Vance because he's playing footsie with you?" And I think it's more that he took Tucker's side. So
this is very interesting when you're thinking about the political moves for the 2028 election. Rubio's currently trying to leapfrog JD Vance as the main candidate. JD Vance knows he needs certain factions in order to not only get the candidacy for 2028, but potentially win that election.
You can already see Vance is pandering to the far right. He leapt in front of Charlie Kirk's funeral. He visited the Holy Sepulchre in Israel instead of the wall. When the Tucker thing went down, he didn't disavow. Buckley is in his press office. So there's very clearly a strategy where they're feeding him like the Chat GPT summary of right-wing Twitter, and he's making all those right moves. But it is going to alienate him from the actual power players. And you could see, to me, this is when you know he has to panic. Because Mark Levin went to the RJC and he said, well, we're going to pay close attention to who disavows who and who disassociates, and we, the Jews, will make our decisions. And I said, that's interesting. But then Erica Kirk was asked, are you going to support JD for president last week? And she goes, well, my husband fought so hard for Trump, and let's just sit and enjoy that. And you remember weeks before that, she was like,
she wanted to marry him, for God's sake. That was insane.
She was going to replace Usha, saying, my husband loved him. He's the only.
My husband.
Yeah, exactly. The whisper, except for JD. And then she turned on him. And you go, oh, okay, so it changed. And now clearly.
Okay, hold on. Yeah. Do you think she turned on him because JD is playing footsie with you and anti-Semitism online?
I think it's more that he took Tucker's side. I think that he took. you know, whatever you want to say about it. I mean, at this point, me and Tucker are one. They consider it that way.
Right.
And Vance did not reassure the Jews. It's like Edward Luttwak said on Twitter when he visited the Holy Sepulchre. Luttwak said, well, Vance needed to do that to appeal to the Christian nationalists, but he needs to reassure us that he's going to come through for us. And I think that when he didn't disavow Tucker and instead went on the attack against some Jewish reporter, everybody said, oh, okay. And, you know, he employs Tucker's son, Buckley, and Levin and the others. They want Vance to fire Buckley, and he didn't. And so I think that the other big guy at Turning Point is Andrew Colvett. Andrew Colvett comes from Salem Media with Marissa Straight from PragerU, the Unit 8200 officer. So Colvett is like a super Christian Zionist. He is apparently now running the show over there. He kind of won the power struggle with Tyler Boyer, is what I hear, who's like a Mormon, whatever. And anyway, so it also seems Turning Point does seem to have more of a pro-Israel flavor after Kirk died. I mean, it's subtle, but it's definitely noticeable. And so I almost wonder if she is now echoing or maybe expressing the party line, which is we're moving on to Rubio. We're moving on to, somebody else because Vance is not going to be the guy. And I don't know that Vance can overcome that like Trump could. He cannot have his cake and eat it too. Because he's not
because Vance doesn't have charisma. Trump was this screen that we projected our hopes and dreams and fears upon. He's no one in a way. It's a weird thing. Like you could imagine him in that video from 2016 of like riding a unicorn and giving a Hitler salute, and it all works. Whereas if Vance has any charm at all, it's that he's cringe. You know, whereas Trump, there's something else that I can't express about him. That he has that. No, I think that's fascinating. The person you just mentioned, what is his name? Colvett. He was just on with Ross Douthat on a podcast. Maybe that was a sort of expression of that, rising to power within TPUSA.
And I mean, that is extremely interesting. A lot of the things that I talk about on this podcast about Rubio trying to leapfrog J.D. Vance, I've been talking about that for a while. And the infighting within the America First movement, I don't think J.D. Vance might not really recognize it, but there's a battle going on between Candace and Tucker, and I think Bannon and Nick Fuentes are on the other side. And in the end, they may all kind of come together. Candace Owens may not survive this. We'll have to see. But Tucker's losing credibility right now, because he's so connected to Candace Owens. So it's going to be very interesting if Nick Fuentes and Bannon kind of become the social media leaders of the America First movement. Is J.D. Vance still willing to connect himself to them?
Yes, and I didn't check that clip. We can't say the name of who that other person was, and hopefully YouTube doesn't get mad enough that it recognizes who that was and actually takes us down or takes down the channel, but it's fine. I can't tell you. You know who it was.
Andrew?
No.
Okay, you'll tell me after.
Yes, but let us know if you're still here, and if you can still see us in case YouTube decides to censor.
Yeah, but it's...
I hadn't checked the clip. Usually I check the clips too and make sure nothing's going to censor us, but...
But you have to really realize here what TPUSA is. It's the campaign arm of the Conservative Party. That's how Trump got in. Now, that being said, if TPUSA isn't going to support J.D. Vance because he's going with the America First people, the America First people don't really have that election arm right now. They're trying to make an election arm called the America First, I believe it's America First Foundation, and Nick Fuentes and I think Steve Bannon are deeply involved in that. That being said, they don't have the reach TPUSA has. So J.D. Vance is somehow going to have to bridge that gap between the America First people and TPUSA. I don't know how that gap is bridged. You would think it would be TPUSA would just kind of be quiet about Israel for a while, but I don't think they're willing to do that. I think it's if you want TPUSA support, you're going to have to outwardly support Israel.
We're also going to have to see how AmFest goes and how Tucker being there and Steve Bannon being there and what they're actually going to say or maybe be allowed to say. So.
Well, and I think Tucker Carlson is the natural face of the America First movement. He's not nearly as controversial as like a Nick Fuentes. So,
but he's been getting weird lately.
Yeah, but I think after this power struggle is kind of hashed out, they're going to want Tucker Carlson to be the face, not necessarily Nick Fuentes, because it's going to be hard to get J.D. Vance on board with that.
And I guess Trump has been over in Qatar doing deals as well, and Tucker Carlson has been a lot of questions about that.
Yeah, but the America First movement has drawn a
Not very first.
the America First movement has drawn a firm line in the sand, and that line is with Israel. And TPUSA seems to like they're drawing a line in the sand saying you're going to have to outwardly support Israel if you want us to support you. So it's now these two factions of what you're going to need in order to get elected. Maybe the ultimate thing is going to be Rubio, JD Vance, but I think Rubio really wants to leapfrog JD Vance right now.
Trent Briggs says everyone's on the fence because it's so divided.
Well, I have been noticing,
And none of the actual real issues are being talked about.
well, I have been noticing in a lot of interviews, Nick Fuentes is opening the door a lot more to, oh, Trump is coming back to his America First base, which he definitely is with all of his policies in the recent month. But he now, from that, because JD Vance is so linked with Trump, he's starting to open the door to JD Vance as well. I think JD Vance is really the best candidate you're going to get. I don't see anybody else in the space you're going to get for America First better than JD Vance. I understand he's not as magnanimous as Trump, but he is a much, much sharper debater. JD Vance is actually one of the best debaters in the political space, so I don't think you're going to get a better candidate.
Mm-hmm. And again, and he does have they could also continue to milk the story of his background and where he came from and get that sector as well.
And he has Peter Thiel, which is going to be big tech money. He has a lot of big money behind him. So Peter Thiel is going to provide Vance with enough money that even without Israel support, JD will at least have a chance to be the next candidate. Right now, there's definitely a battle going on between him and Rubio. So,
Trent Briggs says JD is smart, and that too.
Yeah, he's very smart. He's very cunning, but you always kind of ask, like he's appearing very good because he supported America First for so long, but there was that time he was a never Trumper, and there are all those connections to Peter Thiel. So there are still question marks around him, and typically Nick Fuentes is the one bringing up those questions, but he hasn't been bringing up those questions as much. And I think JD realizes he needs those questions to kind of stop.
Yes. Do you want to go into the next Fuentes one? Or? Okay.
We'll go into the next one.
I will have to change the thumbnail.
And there's a lot of people in this social media space right now, the conservative social media space, kind of going after each other. And this is just another example of that. I thought I'd throw this one up before we get into the big one. And is the next one, oh God, Dan Crenshaw and Sean Ryan? No.
No, that's in a while.
Okay, we're going to have a big update on Crenshaw and Sean Ryan in a minute, but we'll continue to go down this path.
From Darth Powell, quote, Nick Fuentes' response to Roseanne Barr. I didn't even know they were fighting.
What are you going to do about it, Nick Fuentes? What you going to do about it when I tell you, you little bastard, you're going to be begging the Jews to give you, I don't know what.
Medicine for his Coleman syndrome?
You're going to be begging the Jews to help you down on your knees and repent like Kanye West, motherfucker. Keep it up. You're going to go against the God of Abraham? You're going to shit talk the God of the Torah? Keep it up, motherfucker. You'll see what happens.
The Bible? Jesus?
We'll see what happens when you try to overthrow the Constitution of the United States, the Republic of the United States of America. You talk shit about that, saying it ain't good, that we got to have some Catholic theology to replace it. You can kiss my motherfucker.
And I do agree with the last part. Nick Fuentes is all about a Catholic theology in the vision of the Pope, which is a globalist liberal vision. So I don't think Nick Fuentes fully understands the direction the Pope is taking the Catholic Church. The other day when he was debating Piers Morgan, it's like Piers Morgan's the actual Catholic. What Nick Fuentes is something that doesn't exist anymore. It's the remnants of what Catholicism used to be.
Fucking rich Jew American ass motherfucker.
I saw Roseanne Barr. Roseanne Barr said he's going to be on his knees begging the Jews. Roseanne Barr, you need to be put in your fucking place, okay? You're a guest
Sorry
here.
for the...
Newsflash, you're a guest here. This isn't a Jewish country. This is a Christian country. This country was not founded by Jews. Jews didn't write the Constitution. Jews didn't write the Declaration. Jews didn't fight in the American Revolutionary War.
No, but they were also, the founders were very against Catholicism, specifically because Catholics respond to the Vatican, which is an exterior entity. So a lot of the things Nick says, and one of my main disagreements with him, is his ideas about what he thinks the foundation of America was and what he wants to go back to or what he wants to build versus what historically is actually the truth. Catholics were not welcome in the United States.
Now, yeah, I'll agree with, I think Nick's long-term vision isn't a good vision for the country, but I actually think he has the best short-term vision, and that's in the midterms. We have to get rid of these rhino Republicans and get American first candidates. The problem with a lot of these rhino Republicans they are Israel first candidates, and they do kind of represent Roseanne Barr here. That's why this mini feud that's kind of going on is very interesting, because it's kind of emblematic of what's going on within the conservative movement right now.
And Nick is a good diagnostician, but he doesn't have a good prescription for what's happening.
Yeah, but Roseanne Barr, don't put anything past her. I mean, she's going right at him with very harsh words as well, and she's somebody that can actually do that. Not a lot of people will actually stand up to Nick in this very direct way.
Europeans did. Christians did. You're a guest. You need to be put in your place. You disgusting fat bitch. No one is going to be begging Jews for anything because Americans would rather die on their feet than live on their knees begging to anybody. She goes, you're messing with the God of Abraham. You're messing with God. His name is Jesus Christ. That's who you're messing with. She goes, you're messing with the God of Abraham. You're messing with Yahweh. God's name is Jesus Christ, actually. That's the God of this nation. That's the God of your nation. That's your king, too. As a matter of fact, he's especially your king. He's the king of you people. He's the king of the Jews. Christ is king over everybody, especially you, Roseanne Barr, and that's who you're messing with. She goes, he's messing with the God of Abraham. We're like Daniel. We can predict the future. We know everything.
Okay.
It isn't right.
And you can leave it there, and you can see how those two are at an impasse. These battle lines are being drawn within the conservative movement, and this is going to be emblematic of the fight to come, and the candidates each side is going to kind of put up. I don't think it's going to be necessarily whoever Trump says is the next presidential candidate necessarily will be. I think Rubio and JD Vance are absolutely going to have to fight it out. They're both going to need their factions. They're also going to both need big money supporting those factions. Mm-hmm. So I think JD Vance has big tech, and I think Marco Rubio has the neocons and Israel backing for his big money. Okay, we can go to the next part if you want.
Which is?
Whatever.
Where do you want to jump now? Because it goes back into Candace, but we've been talking about Candace for an hour and a half.
What's the next Candace clip? Oh, you can skip that one.
Okay. And that's also down the same vein.
You go into Sean Ryan.
Okay.
And this just kind of came up out of nowhere. And this was the original story I grabbed yesterday because I was actually kind of shocked at this. This is the exact blueprint you're going to want to use to get out these rhino Republicans in the midterms and put in American first candidates. The last opportunity you have to really weed out rhino Republicans and put in America first candidates is these midterms. If they don't do it in the midterms, the classical conservative movement is going to kind of come back up, and this populist America first movement may die on the vine. So let's watch what he had to say.
So from Sean Ryan, he says, quote, immediate release, Congressman Dan Crenshaw threatens to sue Sean Ryan.
I want to address something directly with all of you who've supported.
And this is emblematic of Roseanne Barr and Nick Fuentes, and TPUSA. This is emblematic of the two factions that are currently fighting out in the Conservative Party. This is just another element kind of rearing its head. And both of these people have major connections to intelligence agencies as well.
The show and made it what it is today. On December 9th, 2025, I received a legal demand letter from lawyers representing Congressman Dan Crenshaw.
And pause it.
They are.
And it's an 8-minute, 40-second clip, so we'll pause it throughout, but he really goes through the whole history of what kind of went on here. Rather than getting multiple clips, I can just let him explain it.
Threatening to sue me for defamation because of comments I made on my podcast about a message that he sent me. They want me to remove content, issue a public apology, and stop talking about him. I'm not going to do any of that. Let me give you full context so you can judge for yourself. What I originally said a while back, I commented on my show about Congressman Crenshaw throwing an extremely expensive party and the fact that he seems to have become quite wealthy during his time in Congress. I raised questions about how a congressman making $174,000 a year can afford that kind of a lifestyle. These are legitimate questions. And to be honest, I didn't even mention Dan Crenshaw's name in that initial conversation.
And pause it. And that's the problem here. He didn't even mention his name, and Dan Crenshaw just assumed things. And yeah, he was talking about Crenshaw. Crenshaw is about to step in a pile of shit, and I hope they do de-elect him and put up a real America First candidate. Dan Crenshaw is a classic neocon in the most obvious sense.
Just brought up the fact that he was having Steve Aoki, a major DJ, spin at his party.
And then, let's fast forward a couple years and they got Steve Aoki DJing their 40th birthday party. How does that happen?
I don't have firsthand experience in this. I have often.
To get Stevie Aoki at your party, it's $100,000 minimum.
Yeah, I've seen him live. He went to my university.
Okay.
And I took pictures because I was a photographer and I had him right there. He's not that good.
Question the same thing.
These are legitimate questions. Multiple news outlets have reported on concerns about congressional insider trading and members of Congress, including Congressman Crenshaw, actively trading stocks while having access to non-public information that affects those very stocks. I'm not the only person asking these questions, but apparently I'm the one that got under Dan's skin. After I made those comments, Congressman Crenshaw sent me an Instagram message. I'm going to publish the actual screenshot so you can see for yourself right here. Here's what it says. Hey, Sean, you have the ability to contact your fellow team guy if you've got a problem with me or have questions about how I'm getting rich. Some of my boys at 6 told me about your indirect swipe at me. From the comment you made, it sounds like you have some beliefs that are based on trendy narratives instead of facts. Now, let me be clear about what I saw when I read that message. A sitting United States congressman who happens to be a former Navy SEAL sent me a message saying, my boys at 6 told me about my criticism of him. My boys at 6. That means SEAL Team 6, Development Group, the most elite special operations unit in the United States military and arguably the world. When I received that message, in the context of me criticizing him, I interpreted it as threatening. Maybe I was wrong. Maybe he just meant that some guys he used to work with told him about my comments and he wanted to have a friendly chat. But that's not how it read to me, and I said so on my podcast. Now, here's a clip of Congressman Dan Crenshaw literally saying if he ever meets Tucker Carlson, he will fucking kill him.
Have you ever met Tucker?
So I'm just curious, what would you think if Congressman Dan Crenshaw sent you a message saying his boys at 6 after he threatened to kill Tucker Carlson? Now his lawyers are claiming that my interpretation of his message is defamation. They say I accused him of threatening me with assault, which is a crime, and that I need to publicly apologize and remove the content from my show. Here's my response. No. I'm publishing their full demand letter along with my lawyer's response so that you can read both and decide for yourself whether my interpretation was unreasonable. This isn't really about whether I misunderstood a message. This is about whether a sitting member of Congress can use the threat of an expensive litigation to silence criticism. I asked questions about Congressman Crenshaw's wealth. Those questions are fair game. He is a public official. He makes decisions that affect all of us. He trades stocks while having access to classified and non-public information. The public has a right to ask how he's getting rich while he's in office. Instead of answering those questions, he sent me a message that referenced SEAL Team 6. And when I said that message felt threatening, he lawyered up and demanded I apologize and shut up. And I won't. Now, what's going to happen next? If Congressman Crenshaw wants to sue me, he can. My lawyers are ready, and if he does, we're going to use the discovery process to get answers to all the questions I originally asked. Questions about his finances and how he affords the lifestyle he's living on a congressional salary. I suspect that's the last thing Dan actually wants. But here's what I think is really going on. Congressman Dan thought he could intimidate me into silence. He thought a legal threat would make me back down.
So this is a real opportunity for the America First side to take out a big money neocon here in the midterms. If they can really go after him, they can set an example and they can say, this is how we do it in 2028 with the rest of them. Nick Fuentes and the America First Foundation said they're going to be going after Rhino Republicans and trying to replace them with America First candidates. They got a whole door knocking campaign, finances kind of ready to back America First candidates. I think they're going to want to definitely set an example with Dan Crenshaw. I mean, it would be the biggest possible example you could set. And I think, yeah.
Where do you want to go next?
Oh, we can start going into geopolitics if you want.
For how long?
We'll go to 8:45 today.
8:45?
Yeah.
I have to do my Spanish show.
I know, we'll go to 8:45. We have enough. We're good.
Okay, if any of my Spanish viewers are here, I guess we'll go on at 10 today. Or 10:15 probably.
Okay, we're going to skip. We're just going to do a few from each section. I'll tell you when to skip, okay?
Okay.
Because I put the bigger stories first, I believe.
So which one do you want me to go to? The U.S.?
Yeah, the U.S., just in order.
I gotta find it. Hold on. Okay. I don't know what this is. Are you sure this isn't AI?
No, it's, yeah.
Okay. From Santa Trump. Quote, wow, I knew this was coming, waiting for Trump's response. What is this?
Vladimir Putin, obviously.
I know, but what's it about?
This is about what's going on with the war in Ukraine. Europe is trying to wage World War III here. They really want to get involved in this thing. They want to drag the U.S. into it. Putin is really trying to negotiate a peace here with Trump. Trump wants the peace. Europe just will not allow Ukraine to negotiate, or at least to a proper end.
To the people of the United States, for decades, Russia and the United States have stood on opposite sides of many disagreements. But history has shown us something important. When our two nations choose cooperation, the world becomes more stable, safer, and humanity moves forward faster. Today, I want to remind everyone of a simple truth. Russia does not seek confrontation. We seek mutual respect, equal dialogue, and genuine frameworks for cooperation. Our peoples have stood side by side during decisive moments in world history, and we can do so again. There are many areas where both Russians and Americans want peace: science, energy, security, space exploration, and the protection of the planet we all share. I believe the future will be more secure if we speak to one another rather than about one another. Russia is ready to open new paths of dialogue for the benefit of both nations and for a world with fewer conflicts. I hope this message will be widely shared, because peace can only begin with understanding between people. Thank you.
Okay.
This looks a lot like AI.
No.
I kind of want to look if it is AI.
Yeah, you can look into it. I've already looked into it. I confirmed it before we put it on.
Okay.
That being said, now I forgot what I was going to say. Why don't you just go to the next story?
He said that the U.S. and Russia shouldn't talk about each other behind each other's backs. They should cooperate, space exploration.
Yeah, I'm aware of. I just watched the clip.
Well, I'm trying to figure out if it is AI or not.
Okay. Do you want to be done with the show now then?
No, I want to figure out if it's AI.
Okay.
But you say what you were going to say about it.
Well, I want to go on with the stories and continue the show.
Okay.
Okay.
What next story do you want to go to?
The next one on the list, you literally have it right in front of you.
Okay, this one?
Yeah.
Well, you said you wanted to do a few from each section. From Megatron, breaking, quote, leaked document shows U.S. wants to pull 4 countries out of the EU as part of Make Europe Great Again strategy, per the Daily Mail. The countries that Trump plans to separate from the EU are Italy, Poland, Hungary, and Austria.
And these are also the countries that are kind of negotiating with Russia for energy and other things, kind of charting a different path from the regular EU. They don't want to be on bad terms with Russia. The EU right now is going on a path of war, and they really need to find a kind of a way out, separating these 4 countries or having these 4 countries build a new European Union, or at least get their sovereignty back from getting out from under the thumb of a bunch of unelected officials would be great.
Sorry.
What are you doing?
I was looking for the next story. Which one do you want to go to now?
Yeah, the next one on the list. I
Okay.
keep telling you. Are you not prepared for today?
Well, no, you said you wanted to just a few from each section, so I thought you were going to jump
Yeah.
around. From Jim Ferguson, quote,
Are
the
you
EU...
going to not give opinions? Like, we can stop the show now if you want.
Well, no, what do you want me to say?
I literally want you, like, I give commentary, you give commentary. Just like
But you're the more Europe person.
Okay.
From Jim Ferguson, the EU is fracturing and Washington isn't hiding it. A report now claims the White House is looking at pulling Hungary, Poland, Italy, and Austria out of the European Union's orbit. The document may be denied, but the logic is unmistakable. Because the EU is no longer a partnership, it's a bureaucratic tyranny, anti-sovereignty, anti-free speech, anti-democratic, and increasingly anti-American. And there's a video. Do you want me to go to the video or read it all?
No, the point was for the video.
Okay. Okay.
You've done a brilliant piece in The Telegraph today, haven't you? Talking about how Western civilization can only be saved if the EU is abolished, which pretty much seems to endorse what Donald Trump has said in the leaked security report, suggesting he wants the US to pull 4 countries away from the EU. Could it happen? Could it work?
Well, that's a great question. And I should mention, of course, that the White House has denied the existence of the document. But I don't see how this is controversial at all if indeed the United States is working to pull countries out of the European Union. I think the EU is an absolute tyranny and it is anti-American. It's also, frankly, anti-European. So I think it's a good thing if the United States is working to pull some European countries out of the European Union's orbit. And of course, the actions that the European Commission have taken against Elon Musk in the past few days, the fine against Elon Musk, suppression of freedom of speech, absolutely appalling, dictatorial, Orwellian. And so the European Union, I think, acts fundamentally against American interests. And so if the Trump administration is supporting the breakup of the European Union, I think that's a very positive development, actually, and that would be very good for the United States and for Europe as well.
He singles out, or he doesn't, this leaked document, which hasn't been claimed officially, singles out Austria, Italy, Hungary and Poland. I'm going to imagine it's because that those 4 countries are governed largely by politicians at the centre-right.
Yes, I mean, I think so. I would say that in terms of Euroscepticism, it's significantly stronger in Poland and Hungary than it is in Austria, for example. Austria is still very Euro federalist, but Euroscepticism is very, very strong, of course.
Okay,
Eastern
we can
Europe,
kind
and
of leave
also,
it there. That being said, a lot of those countries actually either border Russia or are a lot more close to Russia than Brussels, Germany, and the rest of Western Europe. Western Europe feels a lot safer to go to war with Russia and to escalate this thing on a day-by-day basis because they feel safe in Western Europe and they can just send the citizens over to Russia to fight and try to take their natural resources so they can revitalize their neoliberal dreams.
But why would the US have to do it? Why can't they just pull out themselves?
There's a lot of strings attached with EU money, banking money. They've indebted these countries to an extreme. There's contracts that they've made these countries kind of sign over time for one reason or another, where if they do decide to separate, it will cost them billions of dollars. So if there are classified documents that are saying he wants to pull these 4 out, he may give them financial support to do so they can actually stand on their own 2 legs. If any one of these countries try to pull out on their own, it could bankrupt the country themselves. But I mean, the EU right now is trying to further bankrupt these countries by number one, stealing Russian assets and saying if things go wrong with the stealing of the Russian assets, that each individual country will be responsible for these Russian assets. And country like Hungary has vehemently said they do not want to take the Russian assets. It's illegal. So, okay.
Where do you want to go next?
We can go to Australia if you want.
Hold on.
And maybe you can bring up the story and talk about it a little bit.
Hold on. I gotta find it first. There were a lot of you.
It's the one, meanwhile, in Australia on the U16 social media ban.
I know. I just gotta find it because I gotta go through all of them. There. 1 second. From Concerned Citizen, quote, meanwhile in Australia on the under 16 social media ban, A little girl says that it's a bad idea because we're going to find alternatives anyways, which is what most of us have been saying since they suggested it and what actually happened in the UK.
Yeah, and he says this kind of with a tongue-in-cheek response, but it's not very tongue-in-cheek. It's extremely authoritarian, and this social media ban isn't going to just stick with the kids. It's going to expand, and on top of that, they're forcing other people to use digital ID in order to force this upon the children. This is how they're rolling digital ID out around the world.
It's a bad idea because we're going to find alternates anyways.
Yeah, well, that'll get found out too.
I mean, he just looks creepy.
Well, I believe that's the Prime Minister of Australia.
Yeah,
and that's going to get found out too. We're just going to keep increasing the level of authoritarianism in order to gain compliance over our citizenry.
And I mean, again, they can try, but we've seen examples with the UK who already try to implement at least facial recognition to get into apps that should be over X age or that, so young people can't look at them. Young people were able to trick the system in a day and a bit, and also the record increase in VPN use all over, not just the UK, but also Europe, and also the X being the #1 news app in all the European countries. So
yeah. Okay, let's head over to Mexico now, which we're currently living in, but I
am from Mexico.
Some news came up about Mexico today, so I thought I'd grab it.
From News Algebra, Mexican manufacturers warn that new tariffs on inputs from China, India, and South Korea will raise production costs and fuel inflation. Mexico imported $130 billion from China in 2024. Chinese cars will face a maximum 50% tariff, the legislation states. I do have a video on this channel regarding Chinese electric vehicles and their use in Mexico and why it's a bad idea. But now they have implemented something I spoke about as a possibility in that video, but now it looks like they have at least done that.
Also, they've been talking about implementing these 50% tariff, but now we're at a point where they're actually about to be implemented. So it's not just conjecture. This is kind of where the rubber meets the road. Mexico is really siding with the United States here and showing their allegiance.
Moving on, Mexico has announced one of its biggest trade policy shifts in years. The country is set to impose tariffs of up to 50% on imports from India, China, and other Asian countries. The government states that the move is intended to reduce reliance on cheaper Asian goods, protect Mexican industries, and correct a deep trade imbalance, particularly with China. Under the new framework set to take effect next year, Mexico will apply higher duties on more than 1,000 product categories, affecting nations without a free trade agreement. This includes India, South Korea, Thailand, Indonesia, Brazil, South Africa, and the UAE. Mexican Economy Ministry said the higher tariffs will help protect domestic producers, curb low-cost imports, increase job creation, and boost revenue, while reducing exposure to Asian supply chains, especially China, with which Mexico runs a substantial trade deficit. But analysts believe Mexico's sudden protectionist turn is closely tied to the pressure from the United States ahead of next year's USMCA, or the United States-Mexico-Canada Agreement Review. The move impacts several major exporting nations. India stands out. Mexico is a fast-growing market for Indian goods, including automobiles, car parts, textiles, engineering goods, and steel products. According to reports, India's auto exports to Mexico, which are worth about $1 billion, are among the most vulnerable, with duties on vehicles and components jumping from around 20 to 50%. India shipped over $5 billion worth of goods to Mexico last year. Now, this significant chunk faces significant cost escalations as well.
Okay, that's pretty good. And I will say this, costs will definitely go up in Mexico if they actually stick through with this plan. There is a lot of cheap Chinese goods here. It works because there is a very poor population here that need those cheap Chinese goods. I'm a little worried where they're going to kind of get that from. It's nice and convenient to think Mexico will start manufacturing their own goods. That would be great, but we're not really seeing that happen. Mexico doesn't have their own car company or other things like this.
No, and the problem is our infrastructure and our government have not allowed for that to happen, not just the current one, but historically, Mexico was a manufacturing hub one time, but then they lost that to the Asian sector, and now we were importing a lot of that stuff from Asia and at a very reduced price. We've also seen an increasing encroaching of China and Chinese production stores, etc., into Mexico, but with all of the revenue and all of the benefits going to China or other Asian countries. And since Trump and since the pause on the tariff talk that they've had with Claudia Sheinbaum now for the third time, I believe, they won't get resolved until who knows when. That actually is this tariff pause is actually proving that the Mexican government does want to and has continued to further those talks with the United States, as well as we're going to have a story about it tomorrow, I believe, or in a video. But Mexico and the U.S. have also been giving each other water, and they had a water treaty, which now has Mexico not giving the U.S. enough water for the past 5 years. The U.S. is knocking on the door and saying, hey, you got to give us this water because you owe it to us, and we have been sending water over to you. And Mexico has infuriated basically all our agricultural sector and our farmers and anybody that has to deal with trying to grow things or use water, because they have kowtowed to the demands of the U.S. And this information has actually hit all of Mexico pretty fast, because it looks like Sheinbaum is really trying to cooperate with the U.S. while she says she isn't.
Yeah, this is definitely pressure from the U.S. Why this is happening. And I don't like to see necessarily a 50% tariff. A better strategy, if there wasn't so much pressure from the U.S., would have been to put maybe a 20% tariff. What that would have done was continue the flow of Chinese goods, so people would have access to those cheaper goods and the inflation wouldn't have been high, but you could have took that 20% tariff from those goods and start building your own manufacturing base. As your own manufacturing base in certain sectors starts to become independent, you can slowly increase that tariff. So you're eventually getting rid of Chinese goods while you're building up your own manufacturing. But because Mexico doesn't really have a lot of their own manufacturing for a lot of these products, you're just implementing this huge tariff, and costs are going to go through the roof for a lot of Mexican citizens. So I think this benefits the U.S. more than anybody. Mm-hmm. Okay, we can go into Canada now if you want.
Okay. From Mark Nixon, if you don't follow him, he is a great source of Canadian information as well. He says, holy S. Michael Ma reportedly crosses the floor to become a Liberal. Liberals are one person away from a majority. Canada is one person away from an authoritarian state.
Yeah, we don't need to watch the clip because it's just going to be the MP kind of going over. What's happening here is the Liberal government in Canada is possibly going to get a majority government soon if they can get one more MP to cross the aisle. This is already the second MP that crossed the aisle. We do have a retirement coming up. Also, Pierre Poilievre's, Pierre Poilievre's review, Pierre Poilievre is the Conservative leader in Canada. His review's coming up because he's had two Conservative MPs cross the aisle and now become Liberals. He may not win that review, meaning he may lose his leadership role. I hope he doesn't, because he's the best leader Canada really has right now. That's not saying much.
Yeah, that's saying something.
But this is also not unexpected. A lot of these so-called conservative party members in Canada are actually Liberals at heart, and they have a lot of Liberal leaning. So it's not surprising that they're crossing the aisle. And that being said, I mean, it's going to be easier for Mark Carney to just sway one more Conservative MP across the aisle rather than having to win another election. Mm-hmm. If they're going to call an election, they're going to need to do it soon. Otherwise, they're not going to have enough votes to do it, because if the Liberals get a majority government by getting one more Conservative MP, they're definitely not going to call an election themselves.
And I mean, the only real party, but it's not even now. I mean, it is a party, but they haven't got much support that would approximate anything like we see in some of the European countries that do have something similar to MAGA, for example, would be the People's Party of Canada, but they've been hamstringed, and the Liberals have done everything they can to push them out. So I don't see them ever getting anywhere. And also with the Alberta and the Alberta separatist movement and Daniel Smith now kind of going back towards the Canadian government and saying that it's not going to happen, and they're not really going to make that effort that they were kind of promising the people to do.
Well,
there's not much hope in Canada, in my opinion.
You brought up a good point, and that is this Alberta separatist movement. They kind of quelled that movement a little bit by supposedly giving them a pipeline, but they didn't put anything in real hard writing. They made kind of empty promises. And if they get another Conservative MP to cross the aisle, they don't have to hold true to those promises. and then they'll really rule in, they'll move Canada to a outwardly social government. I mean, they're already very socialist government right now. It's going to be interesting if they get a majority government. Thank God I had already left that country and now live in Mexico, because things are not going in a good direction for Canada.
I mean, either for Mexico, but in Mexico, it's going to take a bit longer as well. And speaking of that direction, from biometricupdate.com, they say EU and Canada agreed to collaborate on digital ID mutual recognition pilots. New Digital Partnership Council inks MOU in first meeting.
Yeah, and Mark Carney is doing the same thing the UK is doing, which is probably disappointing for the citizens of the UK, like it is disappointing for the citizens of Canada. The UK is not in the EU right now, yet they're realigning themselves as if they're in the EU, following in all their policies and mandates. And Mark Carney is starting to do the same thing with Canada. He should be aligning with the US. The problem is Mark Carney is an ideologically aligned liberal and he despises Trump. He's really the one leading the movement for neoliberalism against Trump. And I think that's why he's aligning himself so much with the EU now.
Yeah, so it says, quote, representatives of the European Union and Canada emerged from the meeting of the EU-Canada Digital Partnership Council on Monday with an agreement to work together on making their respective digital IDs work in each jurisdiction. The continental bloc and the countries signed a memorandum of understanding on digital credentials, digital identity wallets, and trust services, one of several deals to work together on emerging technologies. The MOU refers to the Canada-EU Summit joint statement of June 23rd, 2025. That statement including commitment by each to align their digital frameworks to establish interoperable digital identities and digital credentials to facilitate interactions between our citizens and our businesses.
Yeah, and if you had any idea that this wasn't a global government trying to implement these digital IDs, these digital currencies all in a simultaneous fashion, now it's very obvious. If Canada has a digital ID, which I'm completely against, at least if they had their own sovereign digital ID that wasn't connected to any other countries, you can say, well, no, this isn't some globalist plan. They're outwardly showing their cards that, yeah, we are going to align in this globalist neoliberal order. You can jump ahead to the EU now, and we'll just do a couple stories there, and then we'll finish off with the one on RUMBLE, but we'll leave that on YouTube today.
Okay. Hold on, I gotta find it now.
And we did skip over a absolute ton of stories. There was actually quite a few stories about Trump realigning with the America First movement with a lot of his policies. Gas prices are absolutely way down in the United States. I would also say housing prices are starting to absolutely tumble in the United States. This would be good for the youth vote. The problem is people that already own a home, it's very concerning to them. So he may lose that older voter when it comes to these midterms. But I am glad to see house prices falling, gas prices falling. The only thing left to kind of solve are food prices. And a lot of his policies are directly aimed at lowering food prices. So.
But jumping onto the UK, from Basil the Great, quote, Met police officer ran disgusting gang in London. Was this case investigated? Sadiq Khan and Mark Rowley said there were no disgusting gangs in London. More lies.
You can play the clip there if you want.
Okay.
A former Metropolitan Police officer accused of being involved in a London paedophile ring or grooming gang. There were 2 complaints made against a custody sergeant back in 2012. This was elevated or escalated to detective chief inspector level. I understand you've been made aware of this. Did you know about this at the time, this case?
I know hundreds of cases. I don't know if I knew about it at the time. But that case was investigated there. And what we're doing now is we're, as part of our reviews of all the grooming cases, we're sort of reviewing that case. Were there any missed opportunities? Is there anything that was flawed in the investigation, or was it done completely properly?
But you were Assistant Commissioner for Specialist Crime at this time, weren't you?
I was, yeah.
So did you know about the case?
We have hundreds of thousands of cases. I literally can't remember.
But if you knew about it, why wasn't it investigated? Why was he allowed to retire, the officer involved allowed to retire, prior to an investigation if you knew about the case?
I don't know the answer to that question.
How are we going to get to the answer to that question?
So I've got teams reviewing it. So that has been recently surfaced.
Yes, by LBC.
We've got teams reviewing whether the investigation was done properly. Clearly, you've got one account.
Okay,
you've got one account.
leave it there. I just kind of wanted to show that, as in these grooming gangs and these rape gangs in the UK actually have police officers involved in them, which is going to and make it very hard to actually get justice for a lot of these things. A lot of this stuff was covered up for a long time. We're also seeing MPs possibly being implicated. And the other day, we seen an MP directly try to cover this thing up, and she's getting a lot of flack for this. They need to get to the bottom of this thing. People do not like what's happened over there. The government, at least, is no longer denying it, but they're not taking full accountability for what kind of happened.
Yeah. And with the censorship that's already implemented but coming up, it's going to get harder and harder for the people to continue to try to stand up.
Okay, and we'll go to this and then the RUMBLE story.
This next one?
Yeah.
Hold on. From James Melville, quote, "For the last 20 years, we have been attacked by the political classes telling us how to farm in the countryside. We're now being paid to stop growing food and grow wildflowers. It's insanity, and we've had enough."
Yeah, farmers don't need the government telling them how to farm. It's only going to hinder them rather than help them. The government is trying to get rid of independent farmers and replace them for industrial farming so they have complete control over food resources within these countries. This is happening all over the world.
Talking. For the last 20 years, we've been attacked by the political classes telling us how to farm in the countryside. Our family looked after the countryside for over 500 years. We don't need townies to tell us how to farm. We're now being paid to stop growing food and grow wildflowers. It's insanity. And we're thinking of ceasing our production after 500 years. We've had enough.
Okay, yeah, and I think it's pretty simple. Like, we see all these farmer protests popping up all over Western countries. And the government is really trying to take control of food and water resources in a lot of these countries. The same thing is happening here in Mexico with the government taking control of water resources. There's been major farmer protests popping up here as well.
And what governments don't understand is that farmers and agricultural workers are the backbone of society, and they're still needed. I mean, yes, eventually machines will be able to do that, unfortunately not, but they'll never understand fully how to tend to soil, and that will only turn all of the production and all of the way we get our food and get fed towards these massive farming complexes, which is not good, not convenient. I can't think anymore.
Let's end with a lighthearted story here.
Which is?
So the last story of the day.
Okay, hold on.
And this one was pretty funny when I seen it. I think we'll just show it and kind of talk about it a little bit.
So from Wall Street Ape.
That's not it.
No?
The one that's on RUMBLE?
Yeah.
About Santa Claus?
Yeah.
Okay.
So from Wall Street Apes, quote, "American students are being taught Santa Claus is a gay black man at Chapel Hill, North Carolina."
Students in Chapel Hill, North Carolina are being taught that Santa Claus is a gay black man married to a white dude. It's a storybook presented to second and third graders called Santa's Husband. Lord only knows what they're doing to the elves.
Truth. That's not made up. That's from Newsmax. I mean, or OWN, I can't remember which. But anyway, I mean, that's a true story. Santa Claus is being taught. Santa Claus is what's being taught to elementary school age kids in the state of North Carolina is that Santa Claus is a gay black man married to a man. Mr. Claus. Mr. Claus is married to Mr. Claus. That's exactly what's being taught. That.
And this is just, they're doing this to all these culturally relevant, whether it's holidays or there was another story we couldn't get to, but in France, why don't you go to that? It's the one just before this story. They kind of went together, actually. I didn't realize.
Okay.
And just play the video here.
Okay. From Marine Alval, quote, "French fume as Macron spends $3 million to wokeify Notre Dame." Because of course he is.
The French are in revolt after Emmanuel Macron splurged more than €3 million on a whim, critics say, to wokeify the Notre Dame. The historic stained glass windows installed in the 19th century by the traditional ones are being removed from the cathedral despite surviving the 2019 fire unscathed. Despite uproar when the decision was announced, Macron ploughed on, but the reaction then pales in comparison to the reaction now the French have seen the results in a Paris display. Anger is centering on those depicted in the windows being mainly of non-European descent, many are pointing out. Macron stands accused of erasing the French, who built the cathedral and worshipped in it for hundreds of years, from a symbol of their nation. Some point out Christianity is a universalist religion, though Mr. Macron is openly agnostic, so it's unlikely the president has religious motives. A petition to can the project and leave the historic windows in place has reached 300,000 signatures, though France 2 reports Macron is determined to see his wishes fulfilled. Others criticise a lack of artistic capability, with the chosen artist, Tabouret, seemingly not taking account of the stone between each pane, warping her depictions, and the messiness of her painting. Some mocked Mr. Macron's motives, a lame duck president deprived of a parliamentary majority, who cannot push through laws and has abandoned his one key reform, increasing the pension age to remain in power, could seek to leave a lasting legacy on the world-famous Notre Dame. Back when the decision was first made, French MEP Laurence Trochu said,
"He wants to leave the mark that history will not have left him otherwise. It is clear that this decision, this mad project, stands as a denial, and it fits perfectly within Emmanuel Macron's approach."
Reacting to the final design, she lamented a €4 million whim, while our heritage is falling into ruin when it isn't being stolen, pointing out the National Commission for Heritage and Architecture is against the move. She called it a symbol of the disconnect and hubris reigning at the Élysée Palace. As the Macrons find themselves more and more unpopular, the National Rally's leader, Jordan Bardella, soars in the polls. Nick Dunning, GB News.
Okay. And you can see how that kind of goes with that Santa Claus story we had about Black Santa Claus married to a man. Like they're trying to erase traditional history, especially when it comes to religion.
And European.
And the people don't want
Christian
this.
history.
The people don't want this in any way, shape, or form. They're like that. Those stained glass windows aren't yet installed. I really hope they don't destroy the other ones because after Macron's gone, maybe they can take down the new ones and put back the old ones.
Well, at least some of the ones in the new stained glass windows kind of look like Candace Owens. So maybe it's a message. Maybe it's a message.
Okay.
Since now people got really mad about it.
Well,
But yes, it's horrible and deplorable to also be removing history and actually beautiful history, pretty history, surviving history because those stained glass windows survived the fire.
Yeah.
And it's all to send weird message of them. And then a Candace. It's a weird message.
Well, and the French had that whole incident where the religious incident during the Olympics and the Last Supper incident. This just goes right along with that. I think this is another piece of evidence that kind of proves that whole thing was intentional.
Yeah, it goes to fully exemplify what they're trying to do.
Yeah.
And how the people either cannot or will not speak up either out of fear or because nobody listens to them. But it seems like some people were listening, so.
Okay, well, we're done for today. If you're not subscribed, please do so. We're trying to get to 1,000 subscribers, and we'll definitely be back on Monday with all the Candace news as well as all your geopolitics.
Yes.
So.
And I will be having my Spanish show at 10:15, I guess now, because we went really late today again. Thank you so much for being here. Have a wonderful weekend and a great night. Please stay safe, especially right now during the holidays, the Christmas season, I will say.
Adios.
I got used to saying holiday.
And Merry Christmas.
Yes.